Chapter 38-35. Hearing these words and looking at the formation of the crowd, he felt his vision darken and he almost fainted. So they captured him and wanted him dead because of this? Ancestor, we don't even know who they are. Could it be that they want to decide my life and death with just one sentence? He straightened his back and asked the ancestor. The ancestor narrowed his eyes and asked, "Don't you know who you offended?" "Offended who?" As he muttered, he thought to himself, "When did I offend anyone? I've been in the sect recently." His voice suddenly paused as if he thought of something, and his eyes suddenly widened. The ancestor saw his expression and raised his eyelids. His old voice was filled with pressure and fierceness as he asked, "Who is it?" "It must be them. It must be them." Sun Wei sat on the ground as if he had lost his soul. He couldn't even kneel. At this moment, he thought of what they had done in the past. He thought of how the families of those disciples had been wiped out. He thought of how they didn't even dare to put up their portraits on the bounty board. Previously, this matter didn't concern him, so he didn't take them seriously. However, when it happened to him, he realized how terrifying this fear was. Could it be that they knew that he was behind all this? Was that why they wanted to settle the score with him? Or did they find out that he had killed the steward of the sect and framed them for it? Do you know who they are? The ancestor's old voice was filled with pressure as he stared at Sun Wei. Although he had people bring Sun Wei back, when he thought of how someone had offended his Sun family and killed 5 pillars of the Sun family in one night, the anger in his heart surged. It seemed that he had been in closed-door cultivation for too long, and the Sun family had been silent for too long. That was why they had been bullied. It's the new city lord of the Eastern District, Qi Kong. It must be them, Sun Wei said as he looked at the ancestor. It must be them. It must be them. Hearing this, the ancestor frowned. The new city lord of the Eastern District, Qi Kong? What was going on? I heard that the new city lord of the East District, Qi Kong, has a mysterious background and extraordinary strength. Moreover, he single-handedly took down the position of City Lord of the East District and is now firmly seated in the East City Lord Mansion. How did you provoke such a person? His face was ghastly pale, and he looked absent-minded as he muttered to himself. Also, how can you be sure that it was Qi Kong, the governor of the Eastern District, who killed our Sun family members? The old ancestor asked again. Seeing that the old ancestor was in a daze, his face sank and he shouted, "Speak!" A voice filled with pressure shouted out, causing his heart to skip a beat. He regained his composure and said, "Several months ago, a peak master of the immortal sect was killed and over a dozen elite disciples had their cultivations crippled. It was done by them." Chapter 38-36. Hearing this, many people in the ancestral hall sucked in a breath of cold air. Someone exclaimed, "You mean those people who were on the bounty list and then removed? God, why did you provoke those people? Could it be that you've been spreading rumors about how mysterious and powerful those people are? You actually dared to provoke them? No wonder they attacked our Sun family and killed 5 of our Sun family members in one night. What a sin! Why did you provoke those people? Those are people that even your immortal sect avoids. You actually provoked them for a dead peak master and a dozen disciples whose cultivation had been crippled? You really wasted the family's efforts to nurture you since you were young and sent you to the immortal sect at all costs. You are destroying your own future and courting death. It doesn't matter if you die. The most hateful thing is that you actually harmed the family. My poor son died because of you. You are really blind. Why don't they kill you?" Looking at the chaos in the ancestral hall, the face of the old man from the Sun family who was standing in the middle sank. He slammed the crutch in his hand heavily on the ground. "All right, quiet down." The old man's old voice contained pressure and sharpness. As soon as these words came out, no one dared to speak again. They just stared at Sun Wei, who was sitting on the ground. Because the Sun family's old ancestor was in seclusion most of the time, he only knew that the new East District City Lord had a mysterious origin and extraordinary strength, but he didn't know which group they were talking about a few months ago. However, looking at everyone's expression, he didn't say much. He just looked at Sun Wei, who was sitting on the ground, and asked, "That was a few months ago. They didn't find the Sun family, so they probably didn't know it was you who did it." Then why did they attack the Sun family this time? Could it be that you've been doing something to attract their attention? Hearing the old ancestor's words, Sun Wei only felt cold sweat on his forehead. Others only noticed other things, but no one caught the main point like the old ancestor. Yes, it was because he had been secretly stirring up trouble recently, and it was against those people. Perhaps this was why they noticed him and made a move against the Sun family. However, could he say this directly? If he said it directly, he was afraid that he would die faster. Don't make me ask a second time. The Sun family's ancestor shouted in a deep voice. Sun Wei's body trembled, and he quickly said, "Ancestor, it's like this. I thought that he had just become the East District City Lord not long ago, so I wanted to pull him down and help our Sun family to become the East District City Lord. So I secretly did something, but before I could do it, they had already made their move. Ancestor, no matter what, I did it for the good of the clan. Ancestor, you can't attack your own clansmen just because of their threat. I'm a disciple of the clan. Over the years, I've done so many things for the clan. Even if I didn't make any contributions, I've worked hard. Ancestor, done." The Sun family's ancestor shouted in a deep voice. He narrowed his eyes and glanced at him. "I know what I'm doing. Men, take him to the dungeon first. Without my permission, no one is allowed to see him." Yes. 2 guards came in from outside, pulled him up, and escorted him out. Chapter 38-37. The Sun family's ancestor glanced at him and said, "Previously, we didn't know who did it. Naturally, we need to know their strength and origin. Our Sun family is a century-old family. How can we kill our clansmen because of a few words? If they want our Sun family's property in the future, do we have to give it to them?" Hearing this, everyone was silent for a while. Ancestor, the new East City Lord, Qi Kong, is said to be a peak high god expert. As for the other people mentioned by Sun Wei, we haven't met them, so we don't know what they are like. The Sun family's patriarch paused for a moment before continuing. However, one thing is certain. They are very powerful. Although the clans that were annihilated by them were not top-notch, first-rate clans, they could still be considered middle-tier clans. Yet, they were annihilated in a single night. From this, it can be seen that these people are not simple. The Sun family's ancestor held the black wooden cane in his hand and said, "If that's the case, then we really have to meet them. Let's see how strong they are." As soon as he finished speaking, the pressure on his body spread out. It was only when everyone in the ancestral hall felt the powerful pressure that they remembered this. Their ancestor was also a peak high god expert. Moreover, he had been a peak high god expert for a long time. Even if the East City Lord, Qi Kong, was a peak high god expert, it was estimated that he had just advanced. How could he compare with their ancestor? Thinking of this, everyone's hearts calmed down. Those people were rumored to be so powerful, but only Qi Kong appeared in front of them. No one knew where the others were hiding. If their ancestor joined forces with the experts of the Sun family, why would they be afraid of Qi Kong alone? At this time, they were thinking that the person who sneaked into the Sun family and killed 5 of their clansmen should be Qi Kong. However, they didn't expect that the other people who rarely showed up had already infiltrated the Flying Deity City. Therefore, after a discussion, they decided to wait until tonight to investigate the East City Governor's mansion. First, they would capture Qi Kong and interrogate him for information about the others, as well as the purple golden spirit deer. The members of the Sun clan unanimously approved of this decision. After all, the temptation of the violet gold spirit deer was too great. Moreover, because their ancestor was a peak high god, they were confident that they could fight Qi Kong and capture him. They didn't expect that their greed and luck would cause the Sun clan to walk down the path of destruction. As a century-old family, their foundation was naturally not weak. Therefore, after nightfall, the Sun family's great ancestor, who had made the necessary arrangements, brought 8 people to change into night clothes and went to the East City Lord's mansion. The 9 people quietly sneaked into the East City Lord's mansion. Just as they entered the City Lord's mansion, a Sun family cultivator was about to step out, but he was pulled back by a pair of hands. "Ancestor." That person was startled and called out in a low voice, not understanding what was going on. "There's a formation here." An old voice came out in a low voice. After he pulled that person back, he stared at the formation and pondered. After a while, he gestured for them to go in the other direction. Arriving at the side of a fake mountain, they flashed into the fake mountain. One of them said, "Ancestor, the main courtyard where Chi Kong lives is over there." Chapter 38:38. When everyone heard this and thought of his previous instructions, their eyes flashed and they nodded, "Yes." "Then let's go," he said in a low voice and led the 8 of them to Chi Kang's courtyard. At this moment, Chi Kong was reading information in his room. He picked up the ginseng tea on the table and took a sip. Just as he was about to continue reading, he faintly sensed something. Thus, he raised his head and looked outside. He put away the things on the table and walked out. After opening the door, the 2 guards outside bowed and called out, "City Lord, do you have any orders?" They were surprised, thinking that he was hungry in the middle of the night and wanted to eat something of the sort. Chi Kong looked at the night sky with his hands behind his back. His eyes moved slightly, and he waved his hand to the 2 of them. "You can leave now. You don't have to be on night duty tonight." "Yes." The 2 of them responded and left. As the 2 guards retreated, the courtyard became even quieter. He did not turn around and enter the room. Instead, he stood in front of the room and looked ahead, saying, "Since you're here, why hide?" Hearing this, the people of the Sun family were shocked and could not help but look at each other. The Sun family's great ancestor's eyes darkened. His sharp gaze locked on a Chi Kong. In the next moment, after making a gesture, he stepped out. City Lord Chi is indeed as extraordinary as the outside world says. Chi Kong saw one person walk out and a few people hiding in the dark. He could not help but twitch the corner of his mouth. His gaze fell on the black-clothed person who only revealed a pair of eyes. From the other party's voice, he knew that this person was an old man. Moreover, this old man's strength was on par with his. "Who are you? Why did you come to the East City Lord's mansion in the middle of the night?" he asked in a low voice. His voice was neither arrogant nor humble, and his bearing was calm. Seeing this, the Sun family's great ancestor was secretly vigilant. He did not say much. Instead, he suddenly attacked Chi Kong. An overwhelming pressure rolled up, and a powerful airflow rushed towards him. Whoosh! Swish! Chi Kang's expression didn't change, but a cold glint flashed in his eyes. He looked at the old man rushing over and waved his hand, sending out a powerful chi flow to block the old man's attack. 2 high deity-level auras filled the air in the courtyard, causing the 8 people hiding in the dark to feel nervous. The commotion in the courtyard had attracted the guards of the city lord's mansion. They could not help but look anxiously at the 2 people fighting in the courtyard. According to the ancestors' arrangement, they had to wait for a suitable time to make a move. Now that the 2 of them were evenly matched, they couldn't help but feel anxious. They were afraid that if they were exposed, tonight's matter would push their Sun family to eternal damnation. Phew! Rumble! Bang! The 2 of them exchanged blows, and their fierce attacks destroyed more than half of the things in the courtyard. A stream of air fiercely shot out. Chi Kong dodged, and the attack landed on the wall. In an instant, the wall emitted a loud bang, followed by cracking sounds. Cracks appeared on the wall, and it collapsed with a rumble. City Lord. Chapter 38:39. The guards had to retreat and could only watch the battle from afar. At this time, they did not notice that there were 8 men in black hiding in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Whoosh whoosh, bang, bang bang. The 2 people in the courtyard became more and more excited as they fought. The powerful airflow not only attracted the guards in the East City Lord mansion, but also alarmed the people outside the mansion. In the eastern part of the city, the ancestors of some powerful families felt the pressure and the surging of the airflow. They were secretly shocked. They flew up into the sky and stood on the roofs of their families to look into the distance. When they saw that the movement was caused by the City Lord's mansion, they were even more surprised. The strength of the East City Lord, Chi Kong, was at the peak of the high deity stage. With such strength and cultivation, who would dare to provoke him? In the East City Lord mansion, Chi Kong was secretly calculating while fighting with the other party. Seeing that the other party's aura was slightly chaotic and there was a sense of urgency in his moves, he had an idea and decided to beat the other party at his own game. Thus, he exchanged a few more blows with the old man. When the old man swung his palm at him, it was as if he couldn't react in time and was struck by the old man's palm. In reality, his body was controlling the power of the palm. When the old man's palm struck him, he retreated and restrained the power of the palm. But as if he couldn't fight against the old man, he staggered backwards. It was at this moment that he heard the old man immediately shout out, "Stop! Immortal binding net." Immortal binding net? He was slightly surprised when he saw 8 black-clothed men around him. They seemed to have something in their hands that they threw at him. He wanted to avoid it, but after thinking about it, he endured it. A silver net covered him. The 8 men quickly turned around and tied him up. When his body touched the net, the spiritual aura on his body dissipated. Then he was hit hard on the back of his neck. The 8 men quickly carried him and rushed into the night. The old man was at the back. When he saw that the guards were about to catch up, he clapped his hands with spiritual aura. An airflow attacked and repelled them a few meters away. Lord, when the city guards raised their heads again, they could no longer see their castellan and the black-clothed men. No one knew that many of the captains of the 8 Phoenix Guards had witnessed the entire scene from the shadows. When he saw Chi Kong being taken away by those people, he restrained his aura and followed them silently. Meanwhile, in the small house at the center of the lake, Du Fan and the others were drinking wine and eating small dishes. After waiting for a long time and not returning, Du Fan glanced at the night sky and said, "There are so many people here. Didn't you say you were going to call Chi Kong back for a few drinks? Why was he gone for so long? Don't tell me he was left behind." He was probably asked by Chi Kong to stay and help with the city lord's mansion. Luo Yu grinned and drank a cup of wine. He looked at Pham Lin and said, "Pham Lin, Mistress is going to give birth soon, right? Have you prepared the things Mistress needs to give birth? This is Master's first child, and she's pregnant with twins. You have to be careful." Pham Lin ate the dishes and listened to Luo Yu's words. He said, "Don't worry. We've prepared for so long, so we'll be foolproof. Moreover, Qin Xian has been learning medical skills from me for so long, and she also learned some techniques from the midwife. There will be no problems. When the little masters are born, we'll be busy." Du Fan smiled and said, "When the time comes, we'll teach them all our skills." Chapter 3840. They chatted and laughed. After waiting for a long time, they still didn't see Chi Kong return. At this moment, Lung Hua walked in from outside. Something happened at the East City Lord's residence. As Lung Hua spoke, he looked at them. "Our subordinates just reported that someone entered the East City Lord's residence at night, fought with Chi Kong, and then captured him." "Ah, Chi Kong was captured? Is that true?" When they heard this, their faces were immediately filled with astonishment. With Chi Kang's strength, how could he be captured? This was impossible, right? It's definitely true. It said that there were 9 people, and one of them is as strong as Chi Kong. Hearing this, Du Fan smiled. "We were still talking about how to call Chi Kong over for a drink. Why was he gone for so long? So something happened on his side. I guess many just happened to bump into him." Hearing their words, Guimo also said, "Chi Kong is a steady and meticulous person. If Luo Yu had been captured, we would probably have to worry about him. However, since it is Chi Kong, perhaps he is playing along and wants to uncover the mastermind." When Luo Yu heard this, he immediately glared at him. "How much do you look down on me? Am I that bad? I'm just a little impulsive. After all, I'm one of the leaders of the Phoenix Guards. How bad can I be? All right, let's not alarm Master and the Yama Lord first. Let's find out who did it first." As Du Fan spoke, he looked at Lung Hua and said, "Later, let's contact Minnie and find out the situation before making a decision." On this side, they were discussing. On the other side, Minnie secretly followed them. When he saw the men in black make 7 or 8 turns and finally jump into a residence, his eyes couldn't help but flicker. The Sun residence? It's actually the Sun residence? He didn't expect it to be the Sun family. Why did they capture Chi Kong? Could it be that he knew that the 5 people who were killed last night were killed by them? Just as he was about to leave, a figure silently appeared beside him and placed a hand on his shoulder. He instinctively wanted to attack, but at that moment, he heard a voice. "It's me, Ying-yi." Many people were slightly startled as they looked at the black-clothed man in front of them. After seeing him pull off the mask on his face, they couldn't help but ask in surprise, "Ing-e, why is it you? Why are you here?" Ing-e glanced at him, then looked at the Sun family and said, "I was ordered by Master to keep an eye on the Sun family." "So, you also saw them bring Chi Kong here?" Many people asked. "Yes, I saw it." He nodded and looked at him. "Not only did I see them capture Chi Kong, but I also know that Sun Wei has been summoned back. He was detained as soon as he entered the door, but they didn't do anything to him. They just locked him up. I guess they have already gotten some information about us from Sun Wei." Hearing this, many people nodded. "All right, I understand. I'll go back and tell them now and see what to do next." "All right," Ing-e responded. He pulled the black mask over his face and rushed towards the Sun residence. Seeing this, many people quickly went back. Ing-e was keeping an eye on this place. He had to quickly go back and tell them what to do next. Chapter 38:41. In the Sun family's underground prison, they threw Chi Kong into the black iron cage. His body was still wrapped in the immortal binding net. Because they were in a hurry to see the situation outside, they only threw him in and locked him up. They planned to interrogate him later. The 8 people from the Sun family quickly came outside. When they saw their ancestor take off the black cloth, they quickly asked, "Ancestor, did the city guards catch up?" "Catch up? How could they possibly catch up with us?" As he spoke, his old voice carried a hint of contempt. "They won't be able to find this place, and no one will know that Chi Kong was captured by our Sun family. Don't worry." One of them hesitated and said, "But Ancestor, I feel like tonight's matter went too smoothly. It's a bit like a dream." As the man spoke, he couldn't hide the worry in his eyes. Although Chi Kong is a peak high god, he is still a bit inexperienced compared to me. It is natural for him to lose to me. How is it too smooth? This is how it should be. Or do you think it should be normal for me to lose to him?" The Sun family's ancestors' sharp eyes were filled with displeasure. I wouldn't dare." That person was shocked and quickly replied, "Where is he? Is he locked up?" asked the Sun family's ancestor. "He is locked up in the dungeon, but we saw that he had the immortal binding net on him, so we didn't lock him up." Hearing this, the Sun family's ancestor frowned and said, "At his level, the immortal binding net can only bind him for a while. It would be safer to lock him up with Xian iron." Seeing this, they looked at each other, and one of them said, "Then we will lock his hands and feet with Xian iron now." Just as they were about to go to the dark room, the Sun family's patriarch quickly walked over. "Ancestor, what is it?" The Sun family's ancestor stopped and looked at the Sun family's patriarch. "Ancestor, I just went to the dungeon. Sun Wei told me that the people with the East City Lord live in the small building at the center of the lake." As the Sun family's patriarch spoke, he looked at his ancestor and asked, "Now that the East City Lord is captured, what is Sun Wei going to do?" Hearing this, the Sun family's ancestor frowned and thoughtfully said, "A small building at the center of the lake? The small hut in the center of the lake in the South City district that was rumored to be very mysterious?" "That's right. That's the place. They rarely appear, so very few people have seen them. However, according to Sun Wei, he only recently found out that the people in the small building at the center of the lake were that group of people. Didn't they say they have the purple gold spirit deer? How come no one in this city has seen him before?" The Sun family's patriarch suddenly asked. Sun family head shook his head. I really don't know. The purple gold spirit deer really exists, but I don't know where they hid it. It's also because their purple gold spirit deer didn't appear. Otherwise, how could they hide their identities until now? What we know now is not their true identities. We only know what they've done in the past, and not where they came from. The Sun family's patriarch glanced at the Sun family's patriarch and continued, "However, now that one of them is in our hands, it will be much easier to find out their origins from him." "Then how should we deal with Sun Wei?" Patriarch Sun asked. Chapter 38:42. While the Sun family was discussing, on the other side, many people had returned to the small house in the middle of the lake and told Du Fan and the others about the situation. After hearing the situation, Du Fan and the others looked at each other and finally looked to Hui Lang and said, "Go and tell the Yama Lord. Ask him what to do. As for Master, if the Yama Lord wants to tell her, he will naturally tell her." "Okay," Then wait here for me, Hui Lang said, and quickly went to the main courtyard. Xianyuan Mose in the main courtyard had already slept with Fengjiu. In the room, there was warmth, tranquility, and comfort. On the bed, the two slept on their sides. Fengjiu's back was pressed against Xianyuan Mose's chest, and her entire body seemed to be in his arms. Xianyuan Mose used one hand as a pillow for her, and the other hand gently hugged her waist. His palm was pressed against her bulging abdomen. Occasionally, when he felt her stomach gently kick, he opened his eyes and stared at his hand. He quietly raised it a bit, afraid that his hand would be too heavy and make her uncomfortable. Seeing her sleeping in his arms, her entire body leaning into his embrace, the corners of his lips curled up slightly, revealing an imperceptible smile. Just as he was enjoying this peaceful and warm moment, he heard the faint sound of a hidden sentry outside. Thus, he glanced at Fengjiu, who was sleeping soundly in his arms. After thinking for a bit, he reached out and pressed her sleeping acupoint. Only then did he get up and sit on the edge of the bed. After putting on his coat, he sat in his wheelchair and went outside. "Come in," Xianyuan Mose called out, and went to sit at the table in the outer room. Hui Lang walked in quietly. Seeing his master at the table in the outer room, he walked up and said, "Master, the Sun family's people captured Qi Kong tonight. In addition, Ing Yi sent back news that Sun Wei has been detained in the Sun family, but the Sun family's people did not touch him." Hearing this, a dark light flashed through Xianyuan Mose's deep black eyes. He poured a cup of water and drank it, not saying anything. Hui Lang stood there quietly, waiting for his orders, letting Yi keep an eye on him and ensure Qi Kang's safety. Also, a hint of coldness flashed through his eyes as he said, "Let the Sun family lose a few more people tonight." Hearing this, Hui Lang's face lit up with excitement and anticipation. He asked, "Does Master mean that we don't need to save Qi Kong, but rather we want them to personally send Qi Kong out? If a few more people from the Sun family died tonight, the Sun family would definitely be in chaos. That kind of fear that everyone was afraid of was definitely the most ruthless way to torment a person's heart. It was comparable to death by 1,000 cuts. Go and do it," he said, putting down the cup. "Yes," Hui Lang answered excitedly. He turned around and walked out quickly. In front of them, Du Fan and the others' eyes flashed when they heard Hui Lang's words. Du Fan gently fanned himself with the fan in his hand. His eyes flashed with a smile as he said, "As expected of the Yama Lord, this is a psychological attack. It's even more terrifying than killing them directly. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. We'll pick a few more people tonight." Luo Yu rubbed his fists. He could not wait any longer. "I want to go too," many people said as they walked out. "I'll go too." Hui Lang grinned and said to Wei Feng and the others, "You guys can stay here. It's our turn tonight." Wei Feng smiled and said, "All right, then you guys be careful. You guys stay at home and guard well." Guillermo looked at Lung Hua and the others and said, "Yes, you guys be careful." Chapter 38:43. At the same time, the people from the Sun family came to the secret room. Because they didn't let the other party know their identities, they came in with black scarves covering their faces. However, what they didn't expect was that the person who had been knocked unconscious had already woken up. Some of the people following behind couldn't help but pull at the black scarves on their faces, afraid that their faces would be seen. The Sun family's ancestor, who was walking in front, stood in front of the mysterious iron prison with his hands behind his back. He looked at the tall figure sitting in the corner, and his eyes couldn't help but flash. "The East City Lord is so bold. You can still be so calm even in my place. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you?" The old voice was filled with pressure and killing intent. Although the person was old, his voice was full of energy. Qi Kong, who was sitting in the corner, looked at the old man and sneered, "What's there to be afraid of? Presumptuous." The old man shouted angrily. He flicked his sleeve, and a gust of wind came out his sleeve and swept toward Qi Kong. Qi Kong only felt a gust of wind hit him, and his face was slap hard. Half of his face was in pain, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He spat out a mouthful of blood on the ground. His sharp eyes were cold, and his deep voice contained bloodthirsty, killing intent. I, Chi Kong, will remember this slap. It was just a simple sentence, but it inexplicably made the hearts of the people behind the Sun family's ancestor tremble. They faintly felt a sense of fear. They looked at Chi Kong, who was sitting against the wall without the slightest fear. Instead, he dared to threaten them. This boldness, this power, this temperament already made them feel some regret in their hearts. If they had directly killed Sun Wei and didn't investigate who did this, would it have been better for their family? However, there was no turning back. Even if they felt a trace of regret in their hearts, there was no turning back. The Sun family's ancestor's heart was surging with anger. His hands behind his back were already tightly clenched into fists. If it was someone else, how could they still be so calm and composed? However, even though he was in the dungeon and was threatened by his words, he still didn't show a trace of fear or panic. Instead, he revealed a sense of confidence and contempt. For some reason, it made him feel as if this profound iron prison could not hold him. This made him feel anxious. Handcuff him. Use torture. The old voice was filled with ruthlessness. He stared at the person sitting against the wall. He did not believe that there was someone who was not afraid of death. Hearing this, the people behind him couldn't help but look at each other. They were a little hesitant, so they didn't go forward. Instead, they said, "Ancestor, it's already late. Why don't we lock him up until tomorrow?" When the Sun family's patriarch heard this, he also said, "Dealing with such a stubborn person, he won't be able to open his mouth for a while. Why don't old Ancestor go and rest? We'll have plenty of time to deal with him tomorrow." When the Sun family's ancestor heard this, he stared at Chi Kong with a vicious gaze and said, "I want to see how hard his bones are. Cuff him up." "Didn't you hear me?" he shouted sternly. Everyone looked at each other and then at the Sun family's patriarch. When the Sun family's patriarch saw this, he gave them a look and told them to cuff him up. However, just as they were about to step out, someone rushed in from outside. Chapter 38:44. Hearing this, the Sun family's patriarch and the others' expressions changed. "What happened? How did it catch fire?" "I don't know what happened, but it suddenly caught fire. I've already asked the people in the residence to put out the fire," the person said anxiously. "Do you think I'm so easy to catch?" Chi Kong, who was sitting in the corner, looked at them. In the dim light of the dungeon, his eyes were unfathomable. He looked at the Sun family's patriarch and sneered. It's a pity that the Sun family has such a patriarch with no foresight. The decline of the family is just around the corner. If the Sun family's patriarch and the others were shocked when they heard that there was a fire outside, then when they heard this, it could be said that a wave of fear rose from the soles of their feet and rushed to their hearts. It rushed to the top of their heads, causing their vision to darken. How? How do you know we're from the Sun family?" a masked man asked in a trembling voice. As soon as he asked this, the Sun family's patriarch's blade-like gaze swept over him. He was so scared that he didn't dare to speak again. The High Firmament Celestial Sect's Sun Peak Master, Sun Wei, is from the Sun family. Recently, they have been secretly stirring up trouble, and 5 people from the Sun family have died. In the entire Spirit Celestial City, besides the Sun family, who dares to enter the East City Lord's residence at night? Chi Kong looked at them and said, "I didn't expect it to be the Sun family. After all, I gave you a way out. I didn't expect you to walk down the path of death. It's a pity." The Sun family's patriarch's lips trembled, and he asked, This fire was set by your people?" Chi Kong didn't speak, and just sat there quietly. The Sun family's patriarch gloomily stared at Chi Kong for a while. Then he flicked his sleeves and turned to walk out. "Watch him." With that, he strode out. The Sun family's patriarch and the others looked at each other and quickly left. They told the guards to stay behind and rushed to the place where the fire was. With the help of the fire, it could be said that most of the Sun family's residence was lit up in the night. However, the people were also in a mess. Cries of surprise and the sound of people running to put out the fire could be heard from time to time. What they didn't know was that in a place where the light couldn't reach, several figures were staring at the people who were putting out the fire. When they saw the people who were still wearing night clothes rushing over, they looked at each other. "Each of you pick one person. Try to avoid the Sun's patriarch and the Sun family's patriarch." Gray Wolf and the others nodded and then spread out, quietly following and waiting for an opportunity to move. Because the fire was huge, everyone helped to put out the fire. Those with water attributes used their own attributes to put out the fire, while those with earth attributes used sand to put out the fire. Some went to carry water to put out the fire. In the midst of the chaos, Grey Wolf quietly grabbed a member of the Sun family who was dressed in night clothes. He covered his mouth with one hand and dragged him to a dark place. With a click, he killed him directly. Until he died, that person didn't see who killed him. His eyes were wide open in fear until his body stiffened and was thrown on the ground. On the other side, Du Fan and the others each picked one person to kill. With their strength, it was easy to deal with the Sun family. Moreover, they were in the dark while the other party was in the light. It was even easier to kill them. Chapter 38:45. Chapter 38:46. Chapter 38:47. Hiss. Hearing this, the hearts of the people in the hall trembled. Not only did he want to use the Sun family's power to help one of their families become the city lord, but he also wanted those people's violet gold spirit deer to belong to them as well as a third of the Sun family's property. Such a big move, he really had the determination to kill them. However, after hearing this, why did they still feel uneasy? Everyone was silent as they thought about what had happened in the past 2 days. Their faces were solemn. If the events of the past 2 days hadn't happened, perhaps they would have calmed down after hearing this arrangement. However, those people were killed in front of them, and their corpses were hung on trees as a warning. After doing all this, the fear had taken over their hearts. No matter how confident the ancestor was, they still felt uneasy. Next, they all lowered their heads and listened to the ancestor's arrangement. They all began to ponder. It wasn't until the ancestor told them to disperse that they stood up and left. When a middle-aged man walked towards the courtyard, he stopped to take a look at the burned area. His mood was unusually heavy. He stood there and looked at the burned area. No one knew what he was thinking, but a dark light flashed across his eyes. He quickly walked back to the courtyard where he lived. A woman was holding 2 7- or 8-year-old children waiting for him in the courtyard. The moment they saw him, the 2 children quickly rushed forward. "Father!" The middle-aged man reached out and hugged them. "Come, let's go inside." With that, he looked at the woman and gestured for her to go inside. "Master, what the hell is going on? Did something big happen at home?" The woman worriedly asked. Because she was a woman in the inner courtyard, she didn't know much about the family's matters. The middle-aged man didn't answer. He only patted the 2 children's heads and said, "You 2 go pack up your favorite things and put them in the space treasure I gave you. Go." The 2 children looked at each other in confusion. They vaguely knew something, but they didn't really understand it. They only heard their father's words and went back to pack up their things. "Master, why is this?" The woman asked again with a slightly anxious tone. "Something big has happened in the family. It might be a disaster that will wipe out the entire family." The middle-aged man said with a serious expression. Things weren't supposed to be so troublesome, but since the ancestor came out to take over, everything has become out of control. 4 people died tonight, and all of them were powerful cultivators in the family. I don't think those people will let this go, especially since the ancestor wants to deal with them. When he said this, he looked at the woman's pale face and patted her hand. He turned around to make sure there was no one around before he said in a low voice, "I plan to take all of you out of here tonight. If we stay here any longer, I don't know what will happen." The woman didn't expect such a thing to happen. Her face turned pale as she asked in a trembling voice, Will our clan be exterminated?" Chapter 38:48. Hearing this, the woman said worriedly, But if we leave, well, the family, we can't care so much. The middle-aged man said in a deep voice, why should we be implicated in the disaster they caused? If we don't leave, won't those people not leave a single person alive if they want to exterminate our family? At that time, the Sun family will really have no descendants. Hearing this, the woman didn't say anything else. Humans were selfish. Now that a disaster was imminent, how could they still think about bearing the consequences with them? Moreover, the women and children in their harem didn't know how they caused this disaster. It was really not right to die for no reason. Then I'll go and pack up now, the woman quickly said. The middle-aged man pressed her hand and said, don't make too much noise. Don't take anything else, just take the valuable things. After you pack up, take the children and wait for me in the room. I'll go and arrange it now. I'll leave tonight. After giving his instructions, the middle-aged man strode away. Not only did he want his wife and children to live, but he also wanted to live. Therefore, if he wanted to live, he could only leave the family. Otherwise, among the people who were killed, even if they left the lives of the women and children alive, he would still be killed. The Sun family's ancestor went out at night. He first went to the Chun family. The Chun family's patriarch was very surprised by the late-night guest. Old Master Sun, is there an urgent matter for you to come so late at night? The Chun family's patriarch asked. He was very puzzled. Nephew, I have something to discuss with your father. I wonder where he is now. Can you let him come out and meet me? The Sun family's ancestor said with a smile on his face and a kind tone. Hearing this, the Sun family's patriarch didn't dare to delay and said, Old Master, please take a seat. I'll go and invite father over. With that, he left first. When he went outside, he secretly called for a secret guard and gave a few orders before walking to his father's courtyard. About half an incense stick of time later, a round old man wearing a round brocade walked in like a smiling Buddha. He looked at the old man sitting in the hall and greeted him with a smile. Rare guest, rare guest. When I heard that you were looking for me, I didn't believe it. I didn't expect it to really be you. Brother Chun, long time no see. The Sun family's great ancestor stood up with a smile and cupped his hands in greeting. Come, come, come. Have a seat. Old Master Chun gestured for him to take a seat. The Chun family head sat at the bottom left and looked at the two people sitting at the top. Why are you looking for me in the middle of the night? Is there something urgent? Old Master Chun asked, his smiling eyes sparkling with wisdom. I'm sure it's an emergency. The Sun family ancestor nodded and said, Brother Chun, have you heard of the purple gold spirit deer that appeared a few months ago? Hearing this, Old Master Chun smiled and glanced at his son. Then he said to the Sun family's ancestor, Oh, you mean that group of people? It was said that a peak master and a dozen disciples of the high firmament celestial sect were killed because they coveted the purple gold spirit deer. Why did you bring this up? Chapter 38:49. When family head Chun heard this, he couldn't help but look startled. He seemed to be shocked by his words. He originally wanted to say something, but when he saw his father's smiling eyes looking at him, he sat quietly and didn't speak. Old Master Chun shook his head and said, Sai, it's not like you don't know me. I don't have any great ambitions in my life. As an old man, I just want to enjoy life and play with my grandson. I'm afraid I can't help you with this matter. Hearing this, family head Sun's heart sank. He said, Brother, are you not satisfied with the conditions I put forward? No. He waved his hand and said with a smile, I want to help, but I can't. This matter is really difficult to handle, and I can't do it. Seeing this, family head Sun looked at him deeply. He didn't want to leave like this, but asked again, Brother, are you really not going to think about it? Even if it's not for yourself, you should think about the younger generation of the family. If nephew becomes the East City Lord, the status of the Chun family will rise much better than it is now. Old Master Chun still shook his head and waved his hand. There's really no way. I want to help, but I can't. He paused, looked at him, and said, However, we have been friends for many years. Let me remind you about this matter. Think twice before you act. Don't act impulsively, or it will be too late to regret it. The Sun clan's ancestor had no reason to stay any longer. He stood up and said, If that's the case, then I'll leave first. Thank you for your advice, but this matter doesn't allow me to back down. Goodbye. Seeing him turn and stride out, family head Chen stood up and asked, Father, why did you refuse his request? If this matter is successful, it will be beneficial to our Chun family. Hearing this, old Master Chen glanced at him and shook his head. You're still young. You only see the surface of things. Your vision is not long-term enough. He was not in a hurry to go back to rest. After sitting down, he motioned for family head son to sit down. He took a sip of tea and said, You don't know what kind of person old man son is, but do you think I don't know? If he was confident, why would he come to us? What's more, I've heard of the people he wants to deal with. They are not weak. Moreover, the people of the celestial sect didn't pursue the matter. They must be afraid. Even the people of the celestial sect are afraid of them. Are you rushing to die? Hearing his father's words, family head Chun pondered for a while and asked, Father, are those people really that powerful? I don't know if it's powerful or not, but we should be conservative. Although our Chun family isn't the top family in this city, no one dares to bully us. We should be content with what we have and not forget our roots. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. We should always remember that the greater the benefits, the greater the disadvantages. Family head Chin's heart trembled slightly. Looking at his father, who was always smiling, he sighed softly in his heart. I'm still far inferior to my father. No need. Old Master Chen shook his head. No matter what it is, we will know when the time comes. Since we are not involved in their matters, there is no need to investigate them. Yes, family head Chen replied. Chapter 3850. The ancestor of the Sun family, who had left the Chun family, looked back with a sullen face. Then he flicked his sleeves and strode towards the Wang family. The next morning, in the small building in the middle of the lake, in a main courtyard, Feng Jiao turned over lazily. She naturally hugged the person next to her with one hand and lifted her leg directly to rest on his leg. She rubbed her head in his arms and continued to sleep. Xian Yuan Mose lay still, letting her hug him and put her hands and feet on his body. However, looking at the bulging belly between the two of them, he couldn't help but carefully reach out to support it. When he gently put his hand on her belly, he felt that her belly was getting bigger and heavier day by day. In the past, he could hold her tightly in his arms, but since she was pregnant, he didn't dare to hold her in his arms like this. He also didn't wake her up. Instead, he slept with her until she had slept enough and woke up by herself. In the mansion, Qin Xian and Bai Qingcheng had already started to prepare breakfast. Except for the two masters who hadn't woken up and put their breakfast in the kitchen, the others had already put their breakfast on the table and were eating in the garden. Went to the two families overnight. Du Fan heard this and smiled. So, they want to come to the light with us. Why don't we go to the Sun family again later? Directly kill the old man of the Sun family? Luo Yu suggested. Lung Hua on the side drank the porridge in front of him, put down the bowl, and said, We don't have to go to the door. They will come to the door, and I think it will be today. The longer they waited, the shorter their dreams would be. What's more, several people had died in 2 days. How could they dare to wait for another day? Just as they were talking, a servant hurried in and reported, Not good. A lot of people came outside and surrounded our mansion. Luo Yu rubbed his chin and said, The Yama Lord said not to let the master know. Look, this matter has already come to our doorstep. It seems that even if we don't say anything, the master will know. Du Fan smiled and said, Ever since we moved here, we haven't caused any big trouble. Many forces in the city have their eyes on this place, guessing our origins and identities. Since that's the case, why don't we take this opportunity to make a name for ourselves? Let them know how powerful we are. Guamo nodded and said, Yes, I agree. If we remain silent for too long, we'll be overlooked and looked down upon. Since there's such an opportunity right now, why not make a name for ourselves? Let them fear you. Ha 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 ha. Speaking of which, the people here don't know our master's name. Luo Yu laughed and stood up immediately. Good. I'll go meet them first. Lung Hua wiped the corner of his mouth and said, I'll go tell the Yama Lord and the master. With that, he also stood up and left first. Early in the morning, a large group of people walked quickly on the streets of the Eastern District, heading straight for the small house in the middle of the lake in the Southern District. Some busybodies were surprised and followed behind to see what was going on. After hearing the news, the forces and families in the city all sent people to inquire about it. After asking around, they found out that the people in the small house in the middle of the lake had killed several people from the Sun family, angering the Sun family's ancestor. Thus, he joined forces with the Wong family to destroy the people in the small house in the middle of the lake. Chapter 38:51. A mercenary from the first mercenary group bought some things on the streets and was going to bring them back for his wife. However, he didn't expect to see the people from the Sun and Wong families leaving. After asking around, he found out that they were going to the small house in the middle of the lake. He didn't bother to buy anything and hurriedly returned to the mercenary group to report. Leader, something happened. Genie Feng was choosing his next mission when he heard the sound from outside. He looked up and saw a mercenary rushing in. What's going on? What made you lose your sense of propriety? He asked as he tidied up the things on the table. Leader, the Sun and Wong families brought their men to the South City District and surrounded the small house in the middle of the lake. The mercenary quickly said, What? He was startled and couldn't help but stand up. Those two families surrounded the small house in the middle of the lake? What are they doing? I heard that the people from the Sun family said that the people from the small house in the middle of the lake killed their family members. I don't know the details. The mercenary said. He looked at the mercenary leader and asked, Leader, should we go and take a look? Go. Call the brothers and follow me. He ordered in a deep voice and strode out. The mercenary was startled. Call the brothers? Was he planning to help? At that moment, he hurriedly turned and walked out, quickly calling the people in the mercenary group to gather. At the small house in the middle of the lake, the people from the Sun family and the Wong family surrounded it. The people in the lead were the Sun family's ancestor and another old man. Behind them were the younger generation of the two families. Sun Wei was also among them. At this moment, his face was full of viciousness. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at the tightly shut small house in front of him. Anger and hatred surged in his heart. If it weren't for them, why would he be locked up in the dungeon by his family? Now that even the ancestor had decided to deal with them, and even asked the Wong family's ancestor to help, he didn't believe that they couldn't deal with a mere dozen people with their combined strength. What are you doing? The city lord of the Southern City District hurriedly rushed over. Before he even arrived, his voice was already filled with pressure. When he heard that something had happened at the small building in the middle of the lake, he rushed over without thinking. First, this was his territory. Since the people from the East District dared to come here and cause trouble, it was obvious that they didn't put him, the city lord of the South District, in their eyes. Secondly, he had received a favor from the people of the small house in the middle of the lake and promised to take care of them. Naturally, he couldn't let anyone bully them. City Lord Nan, this is our personal grudge. City Lord, please don't interfere. The Sun family's patriarch said in a gloomy voice as he looked at City Lord Nan, who was walking over quickly. What a joke. This is my Southern District's territory, and you're telling me not to interfere? How is this possible? The South City Lord flicked his sleeves and snorted heavily. The Sun family's ancestor's eyes narrowed, and a dark light flashed across his eyes. He stared at the South City Lord and said, Then does the South City Lord know that the people living in this small building not only killed my Sun family's people, but also kidnapped our East City Lord and killed him? Hearing this, not only the South City Lord, but even the surrounding people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The South City Lord's heart trembled. He knew the strength of the people in the small building in the middle of the lake. Although he hadn't seen all of them, he knew that they were very strong. Chapter 38:52. The Sun family's ancestor looked at the South City Lord's serious expression, and a hint of pride flashed through his eyes. Before coming out, he had already ordered the people in the mansion to kill Chi Kong in the dungeon and secretly send Chi Kang's body to the small building in the center of the lake. He believed that they had already made their move and things were developing according to his plan. As long as they attacked, and found Chi Kang's body in the small building in the center of the lake, they wouldn't be able to explain themselves even if they had two mouths. They have no grudges with the East City Lord, so they wouldn't do anything to you. The South City Lord came back to his senses and said in a deep voice. He stood in front, and his sharp gaze fell on the Sun family's ancestor and the Wong family's ancestor. I respect the two of you as seniors. If you leave now, I can pretend that nothing happened. If you continue like this, I will lead the South City Guards to chase you out of the South City District. A deep voice containing a powerful pressure spread out. At this moment, he knew that regardless of whether the people in the small building in the center of the lake did it or not, he would unconditionally stand on their side and protect them. South City Lord, if you insist on protecting them, then don't blame us for being impolite. The Sun family's ancestor said in a gloomy voice, and the pressure on his body was also released. The two sides were in a stalemate, and everyone's hearts were in their mouths. It was also at this moment that a light voice with a hint of sneer came out and clearly entered everyone's ears. Oh, I was wondering who it was. So insensible to disturb people's dreams so early in the morning. Are you tired of living? The sudden voice startled everyone. They looked in the direction of the voice and saw a man in embroidered clothes sitting on the wall of the small building in the center of the lake. The man had a lazy and casual expression, but his eyes contained a fierce killing intent. The people in the small building in the center of the lake had always been mysterious. It could be said that except for a few people, no one had seen the people inside. At this moment, the person who appeared on the wall made everyone wonder who the other party was. Sitting on the wall, Luo Yu's gaze swept across everyone and landed on Sun Wei. He smiled maliciously. You're not dead yet? I wanted to let your family deal with you themselves, but it seems like you're in a hurry to die in our hands. Being stared at by Luo Yu, Sun Wei couldn't help but shudder. He braced himself and looked at Luo Yu as he fiercely said, You've killed so many of our Sun family's people. This debt must be settled today. Oh, is that so? Luo Yu flicked his wrist, and a dagger appeared in his hand. He looked at Sun Wei and said, Don't be anxious. Even if you don't want to settle the score, I'll still settle it with you. The door of the small house at the center of the lake opened, and Du Fan walked out with a fan in his hand. Hui Lang, Wei Feng, and Guillemot also walked out. Du Fan's gaze swept past Sun Wei and descended onto the Sun clan's ancestor. After that, he looked towards the Wong clan's ancestor and said, Old Wong, this is a grudge between us and the Sun clan. If you take your people and leave now, then perhaps you can still live. Otherwise, once we attack, we won't show any mercy. Lao Wong, who's that? Everyone looked at each other. When they saw the refined, white-clothed man with a fan in his hand smiling as he looked at the Wong clan's ancestor, the corners of their mouths couldn't help but twitch. Chapter 3853. The face of the Wong family ancestor, who was called Old Wong, suddenly turned red. He looked angrily at the smiling man in white and immediately shouted, How dare you? The voice that contained the pressure of a high god carried a sharp aura as it pounced on Du Fan like a fierce tiger, pouncing on him with the force of a thunderbolt. Du Fan continued to smile with his eyes narrowed. When he saw the pressure that could be seen with the naked eye attacking him, he waved the fan in his hand and forcefully pushed back the force of the wind. Whoosh! The sound of air flowing through the air was hit back. The Wong family ancestor didn't expect the other party to have the ability to withstand his pressure. He wasn't prepared and was hit. He took a few steps back. It wasn't a real attack, but it wasn't weak. Especially after he was hit, his expression changed slightly. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he remained silent. He retracted the aura he had released earlier and looked at the smiling man in white with a heavy gaze. His gaze swept past the few people beside him, as well as the man sitting on the wall. These people all had a powerful aura and a calm demeanor. But looking at them, they should not be the owner of this small house in the center of the lake. If the owner was not just a subordinate, if the subordinate had such a powerful aura, then how terrifying would the master be? Thinking of this, cold sweat appeared on his forehead. He gritted his teeth and stepped forward. He cupped his hands and said, Please don't take offense if we have offended you. My Wong family will withdraw and not participate in the personal grudge between you and the Sun family. He emphasized his personal grudge so that the other party could understand. At the same time, he lowered his attitude so that the other party wouldn't take offense. Brother Wong, the Sun family ancestor, didn't expect him to back down. His eyes narrowed in shock and anxiety. The people around also didn't expect that the attack of the man with the fan didn't anger the Wong family ancestor. Instead, he apologized and left. Looking at this scene, everyone's heart trembled. They thought to themselves, is the man in white very strong? Otherwise, why would the Wong family ancestor be so patient? I'm sorry, I can't help you with this. The Wong family's patriarch said to the Sun family's patriarch. Immediately, he shouted, "Come back with me." As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately turned around and left. He didn't dare to stay here for long. After all, it was very embarrassing to do such a thing. Although the people of the Wong family didn't know what was going on, since the patriarch had spoken, they quickly followed and left. It was also at this moment that the mercenaries quickly arrived. Genie Feng walked up to Du Fan and the others. After saluting them, he said, "I heard that you're in trouble, so I came to see if you need any help. It's just a small problem. Don't worry about it," Du Fan said, smiling at him. Plotting to murder the city lord and framing him. Abusing power for personal gain. Today, the Sun family's luck has come to an end. A dignified voice sounded. The South City Lord was startled. He turned around and saw the East City Lord, Chi Kong, dressed in a brocade robe, walking over with one hand behind his back. Behind him were hundreds of guards from the East City District. How is he still alive? The Sun family's patriarch couldn't ask this question because those people had quickly stepped forward and surrounded them. Chapter 38:54. Are you surprised that I'm not dead? Chi Kong stepped forward and looked at the Sun family's ancestors sharply. The Sun family's ancestor's face turned pale, and he took a step back. Seeing this, Nanxing couldn't help but ask, "City Lord Dongcheng, what's going on?" Chi Kong glanced at him and said in a deep voice, "The Sun family took you away with the intention of murdering you. Unfortunately, their evil plan didn't succeed." His voice contained the aura of spiritual power, so it was clearly heard by the people around him. They couldn't help but be in an uproar and looked at the Sun family's ancestor in disbelief. Just now, he said that the people of the small house in the center of the lake killed the city Lord Dongcheng. They didn't expect that it was the Sun family's ancestor who had evil intentions. "Sun Wei, where are you going?" Sun Wei, who was called out, was shocked. When he saw Chi Kong appear, he knew that things were bad. Therefore, he took advantage of the chaos, and no one noticed him to escape first. But who would have thought that a hand would be placed on his shoulder at this moment, making him unable to move? He turned around and saw that it was the man who was sitting on the wall. He couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. You let go of me." He waved his hand to attack him, wanting him to let go. However, who would have thought that the other party would grab his hand and twist it, breaking his hand? Crack! A shrill scream sounded. Everyone saw that Sun Wei's hand was broken by Luo Yu. Luo Yu kicked him at the back of his knee. Sun Wei knelt forward and let out a shrill scream. When the Sun family's ancestor saw that he actually wanted to escape, his eyes turned cold. He didn't pay any attention to him, and instead attacked Chi Kong. The fierce airflow contained a strong pressure and murderous aura. It spread across the sky and instantly filled the surroundings. That was the pressure of a master at the peak of the great deity stage. When the others felt the pressure spread, they suddenly felt as if a big stone was pressing on their hearts, making it difficult for them to breathe. "Step back! Step back!" City Lord Nan shouted in a deep voice. He waved his hand and ordered everyone to step back to avoid being hurt by the pressure. "Today, the Sun family's ancestor is here. Don't think about going back alive." As Du Fan spoke, the fan in his hand flew out with a whoosh. Suddenly, it turned into a flying knife and attacked the middle-aged men of the Sun family. His strength was above those people, and the speed of his attacks was so fast that the other party had no chance to react. They only knew that when the killing intent came, they kept retreating, but they were not faster than that fatal attack. Yes. The two Sun family members who couldn't dodge in time had their throats slashed by the flying fan. Blood spurted out, and the two men groaned as their bodies fell straight to the ground. The smell of blood permeated the surroundings, causing some of the Sun family's guards to tremble. They quickly retreated, not wanting to join the battle. After all, with their strength, only death awaited them. Seeing the few people in the small house at the center of the lake move, their figures flashed out like ghosts. A powerful pressure filled the surroundings, and a murderous aura was emitted from their bodies. That scene made the South City Lord's heart tremble. He thought back to that night when they came to see him. He should be glad that he didn't make enemies with people like them. Looking at the almost one-sided massacre, his face turned solemn. He knew that the Sun family was completely finished. Chapter 38:55. I told you that things wouldn't be so simple. Look, the Sun family has kicked an iron plate. The old man shook his head and sighed. With the skills of Du Fan and the others, it was really easy to deal with the Sun family. In less than half an hour, the ground was covered with corpses. Only 7 or 8 main members of the Sun family were left. However, at this time, their faces were pale and their legs were weak. They were unable to fight at all. The Sun family's ancestor looked at the dead people on the ground with red eyes. He clenched his hands, and a flame suddenly rose. With a whoosh, it formed a fire dragon and attacked Chi Kong in front of him. Chi Kong frowned. Just as he was about to make a move, he saw Du Fan rush forward. The fan in his hand instantly became bigger and blocked the fire dragon that rushed forward. At the same time, he pressed down and suppressed the flame. The two figures quickly rushed out and fought from the ground to midair. Below, Luo Yu directly destroyed Sun Wei's cultivation. At the same time, he twisted his hands behind his back and broke them. Then he took out a rope and tied his hands together with his feet. He pulled him to a tree in front of the street and hung him upside down. You let me go, let me go. In just a short while, Sun Wei was tortured until he was on the verge of death. His spiritual power cultivation was destroyed, causing him to rapidly age. His hands were broken, and he was in extreme pain. At this time, he was still hanging upside down. All the blood in his body rushed to his head, causing his pale face to turn red again. Let you go? It won't be fun if I let you go. Luo Yu smiled evilly and patted his cheek with the dagger in his hand. Who asked you to play tricks behind our backs? Do you know that you can provoke anyone but us? I don't dare anymore. It's too late. Luo Yu chuckled. The dagger slapped his cheek as it slid downwards. It was only when the sharp dagger was pressed against his throat that he stopped. You said that if I make a cut here and let your blood slowly drain, in the end, you'll die first? Or your ancestor will die first? Hearing his words, the people around him couldn't help but shudder. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at the handsome man in brocade clothes. This person had the appearance of an elegant young master, but the words that came out of his mouth were like that of a demon, making people tremble in fear. Don't, he said in horror, his breathing weak. City Governor Nin stepped forward and said, After all, he's from the High Firmament Celestial Sect. Won't the High Firmament Celestial Sect hate you for doing this? Otherwise, why don't we return him to the High Heaven Celestial Sect? Before he could finish his sentence, he saw Luo Yu stab the dagger in his hand into Sun Wei's throat. Sun Wei's body stiffened as his eyes widened in shock. With the dagger still in his throat, blood seeped out from the gap between the dagger and his throat, dripping to the ground. The High Firmament Immortal Sect is not strict enough. Since they are not strict enough, I will reluctantly help them solve this problem and save them the trouble. As he spoke, he pulled out the dagger that had pierced Sun Wei's throat. In an instant, blood spurted out like a fountain and sprayed all over the ground. Bang. Chapter 38:56. Some of the more cowardly people covered their eyes and exclaimed when they saw this scene. The surrounding people were also frightened when they saw this scene. No one thought that this man in white, who always had a smile on his face, would be so cruel when he attacked. The tip of the fan was suffused with a cold light as it pierced the Sun family's ancestor's chest. Blood splashed out at that moment and sprayed onto the white-clothed man's body. Drops of blood bloomed on his white clothes like red plum blossoms. The surroundings were silent. Even the Sun family's patriarch, who was pressed down, was paralyzed on the ground at this moment. He stared blankly at this scene. Dead? His family's ancestor died, just like that? All gone. All dead. For this battle, the people that were carefully selected from the family were all dead. He was the only one left alive. Du Fan raised his hand and put away the fan with a whoosh. Drops of blood splashed out and flew to the surroundings. The blood on the fan made people tremble in fear. That was not a treasured fan in the hands of a noble young master, but a murder weapon. Sun family's patriarch, do you have anything else to say? Du Fan walked in front of the Sun family's patriarch and looked at him condescendingly. The Sun family's patriarch knew that even if he begged for mercy, he would die without a doubt. Therefore, he did not beg for his own life. Instead, he said, "Today's ending can only be said to be our Sun family's own fault. I only want to ask Commander and young master for one thing. The women and children of the Sun family were not involved in this matter. They are all innocent. I beg Commander to let them go and give them a chance to live." Hearing this, Du Fan's eyes flashed, and he said, "As long as they know their place, my master will not take their lives. However, if they're unwilling to give up and want to cause trouble, then they can't blame anyone." When the Sun family's patriarch heard this, his anxious heart finally calmed down. He endured the injuries on his body and stood up. At this moment, his voice was filled with spiritual energy. "Sun family, listen up. The Sun family's defeat today is all due to their own fault. In the name of the Sun family's patriarch, I order the Sun family's descendants not to take revenge. Don't pursue this matter." The voice that contained spiritual force spread out. Although it didn't reach the ears of the Sun family in the Eastern District, everyone present heard it. When they heard it, they would discuss it and pass it on. Naturally, it would also reach the ears of the Sun family. Moreover, he said this to give the Sun family's descendants a chance to live. Since the other party had said such words, as long as he ordered his descendants not to take revenge, then they would be able to live. Gritting his teeth, he raised his hand and fiercely slapped the top of his head in front of everyone's eyes. However, with that one strike, there was a paw sound, and the faint sound of skull cracking could be heard. The Sun family's patriarch's eyes were wide open as he stared at the sky. Then he fell down. Their bodies fell to the ground with a bang. No one said a word, no one made a sound. They just looked at the scene in shock. They watched as the century-old family declined like this. They watched as the family's ancestor and patriarch fell just like that. No one felt that they were pitiful, and no one felt that the people of the small house at the center of the lake were cruel. This was because this was how the world worked. If they didn't die, then the people of the small house at the center of the lake would die. Chapter 38:57. Sun Wei, who was hanging on a tree and bleeding, was already motionless. It could be said that almost everyone from the Sun family had died here. Not a single one was left alive. Looking at the corpses on the ground, the South City Lord's heart was abnormally heavy. The powerful and outstanding people of the Sun family were all dead. The only ones left were some young and not outstanding people. It seemed that the Sun family would not be able to stay in this city in the future. Bring them out. The South City Lord, who was about to go forward, was startled when he heard Du Fan's words. He saw that the door to the small house in the center of the lake opened again. A middle-aged man, a woman, and 2 children were brought out. Seeing the bloody scene outside, the 2 children burst into tears and hugged their mother tightly. Who is this? How did they come out? Could it be the people from the small house in the center of the lake? I know who they are. That middle-aged man is the cousin of the Sun family's patriarch. I think he's called Sun Chang'an. The 2 children behind him are his son and daughter. That woman is his wife. But why are they here? Sun Chang'an's strength is one of the best in the Sun family. I was thinking that the Sun family's patriarch would bring people here. Why didn't I see him? So he was captured. Sun Chang'an's expression was calm in the face of the whispers around him. He forcefully suppressed the shock and fear in his heart. He looked at the corpses on the ground and at their miserable deaths. In the end, he could not bear to look away. Sun Chang'an, Du Fan looked at him and said in a deep voice, "Didn't your patriarch arrange for you to leave with your family, just for this moment? Now that they're all dead, you could take over the Sun family, bring their corpses back. At the same time, move out of Spirit Immortal City within half a month." Hearing this, Sun Chang'an's heart trembled. He looked up at Du Fan in astonishment. His words, were these words to let him smoothly take over the Sun family? With his words, even if the people in the family knew that he left the family overnight with his wife and child, they wouldn't say anything. They would only think that it was the old ancestors' arrangement. Then it would be perfectly justifiable for him to go back and take over the Sun family. At this time, the strong people of the Sun family had already been killed, but there were still many people with average strength left. If there was chaos, it would not be so easy for him to take over the Sun family. However, with his words, no one would say anything when he returned to the Sun family, and they would all listen to his orders. What are you waiting for? Go back and restrain your Sun family. Du Fan shouted calmly. Sun Chang'an immediately came back to his senses. He watched the group of people turn around and enter the small building in the center of the lake. After making sure that he was allowed to go back, he calmed down and shouted to the people around him, "Who is willing to help me send the bodies of my family members back to the Sun family? I, Sun Chang, am very grateful." Some people weren't willing to do something that was profitable, while others fought to do it. Especially when they saw that the people in the small building in the center of the lake had already let the Sun family go, they were even bolder. Seeing that this matter had come to an end, the South City Lord didn't leave. He followed them into the small building in the center of the lake. The leader of the first mercenary group, Genie Feng, wanted to leave, but he didn't want to hear Du Fan's voice coming from inside. "Leader Jean, come in and have a drink." Chapter 38:58. When they entered, they did not see Du Fan. Instead, Lung Hua walked up and gestured for them to enter. "Please come in, young Master Lung." Genie Feng had seen him before, so he bowed. When the South City Lord saw Lung Hua, he secretly sized him up and asked, "Young Master, you are?" Lung Hua smiled and said warmly, "I'm the housekeeper of the residence." Hearing this and seeing Genie Feng's respectful attitude, the South City Lord did not dare to look down on him. He nodded slightly and followed him inside. After sitting down at a stone table, the South City Lord looked at Lung Hua and said, "Young Master Lung, can you pass on a message for me? I want to see the commander." Lung Hua smiled warmly and said, "That may not be possible. It's not convenient for my master. If there's anything you need, you can tell me. I'll pass on your message." The South City Lord was about to say something when he saw Luo Yu and Chi Kong walk over and sit down at the table. Luo Yu had a blade of grass in his mouth and said, "I say, South City Lord, since you're here, just have a few drinks and chat. What trouble do you have to trouble my master? What's more, my master usually orders us to do things. She's not in charge now. If you really have something urgent, just tell us." Seeing this, the South City Lord did not say anything else. He wanted to ask who they were. Were they really not afraid of the Lingxiao celestial sect coming after them after causing such a big commotion? However, they did not look worried. Forget it. He did not mention it. Not long after, Du Fan changed out of his blood-stained robe and walked over. He said to them, "South City Lord, Commander Jean, I've already asked the kitchen to prepare a few dishes. Since you're here today, have a few drinks before you go back." When the South City Lord and Genie Feng saw him, they naturally walked forward and put a hand on Chi Kang's shoulder. When they sat down beside him, their eyes flashed. Perhaps sensing their scrutiny, Du Fan smiled. "Chi Kang is our brother." Hearing this, the two of them couldn't help but be shocked. "What? Is the East City Lord one of your people? Is it strange?" Du Fan took out a bottle of wine from the space and poured them a cup. He smiled at the two of them and said, "Not only is he one of our people, there are also many of our people in the city." Their faces were filled with disbelief. Genie Feng knew that there were people in their city, but he didn't expect that even the East City Lord was one of them. Although the South City Lord knew that they were powerful, he did not expect them to be able to infiltrate the Spirit Immortal City in such a short period of time. Just thinking about it shocked him. When Lung Hua saw them chatting, he smiled and left quietly, preparing to return to his master's side. At this moment, in the main courtyard, Feng Jiu was lazily lying on a soft couch with a book covering his face. He said, "Is everything settled? I don't know what happened from beginning to end. It's just a small matter. You don't have to worry about it. I've already asked them to take care of it." As Xianyuan Mo spoke, he poured himself a cup of tea and took a sip. Seeing that she was covering her face with a book, he removed it from her face and said, "You've already been lying down for a while. Do you want to get up and walk around?" "I don't want to move. I just want to lie down," Feng Jiu said lazily, raising his hand to cover his eyes. Chapter 38:59. A pair of hands held his, and a gentle voice with a smile entered his ears, soothing the worry in his heart. "Don't worry, it'll be fine," Feng Jiu said gently. She looked at him and smiled. "Don't look so worried all the time. Relax, it'll be fine. Besides, there are still some geniuses who will give birth." Xianyuan Mose replied. He didn't say anything else and just held her hand and pressed it against his cheek. The incident that happened that day seemed to have been easily forgotten. However, the Sun family had declined and moved out of the flying immortal city. The people of the soaring firmament celestial sect didn't seem to have any reaction to Sun Wei's death. Days passed, but still, no one came to the small house in the center of the lake. The small house in the center of the lake continued to live a quiet and comfortable life. The door was still tightly shut, and very few people came out. This made the people in the city gradually stop being curious. This was because they only saw the few men who had fought with the Sun family that day. They didn't see the owner of the small house in the center of the lake. Although no one saw the owner of the small house in the center of the lake, after this battle, the families in the 4 districts of the Spirit Immortal City were extremely afraid of the small house in the center of the lake. This morning, Luo Yu, Gu Imo, and the others were exercising in the courtyard. Seeing Fan Lin sitting at the table and drinking tea, Luo Yu smiled and said, "Fan Lin, it's rare that you haven't been to the medicine pavilion these days. Come, let's spar." Hearing this, Fan Lin smiled. "I admit that I'm not your match. Go find Gu Imo or Wei Feng to spar with." "Forget about them. I'll go find Lung Hua to spar with." Luo Yu grinned. After practicing a set of fist techniques, he was about to call Lung Hua to practice Tai Chi. However, before he could walk out of the courtyard, he saw Hui Lang rushing in. "Fan Lin, quick, come with me." Hui Lang swept past Luo Yu like the wind and went straight to Fan Lin, who was sitting at the table. Without saying anything, he pulled him up and rushed to the backyard. Fan Lin ran after him and asked, "What's wrong? What happened?" "Something big has happened. Madam is about to give birth," Hui Lang said as he ran, not giving him any time to stop. Hearing this, Luo Yu and the others behind couldn't help but be startled. "Master is about to give birth? Let's go. What are you still standing there for? Let's go take a look." The few of them didn't care about anything else and immediately rushed to the main courtyard. In the main courtyard, Xianyuan Mose looked nervously at Feng Jiu on the bed. His forehead was covered with cold sweat. He held her hand and asked worriedly, "How is it? What do you think? Does it still hurt? Do you need to take some painkillers?" Feng Jiu exhaled softly. When the pain in his stomach subsided, he said, "Better. Ouch." Before she could finish her sentence, she felt another wave of pain. It was the kind of pain that caused her to constrict. She couldn't help but cry out in pain, and her grip on Xianyuan Mose's hand tightened. And she gritted her teeth and called out to Lung Hua, who was anxiously waiting outside. "Lung Hua, come in and help me walk. I don't want to lie down." "Can you walk like this?" Xianyuan Mose asked worriedly, afraid that her legs would give way and she would fall. "It's okay. This is just the beginning. It won't come out so soon. I'll get up and walk. Maybe it'll be faster." She took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. Chapter 38:60. "Yama Lord, Master is right. It'll be better if she gets up and walks around. Moreover, it's just started. It won't happen so soon." As soon as Chin Xin finished speaking, she saw Yama Lord staring at her with a dark face. She felt numb and asked, What's wrong? You mean, she'll be in pain for a long time?" Xianyuan Mose's face was dark and scary. Yes. Hearing this, Xianyuan Mose pursed his lips and asked with a dark face, "How long will she be in pain? When will she give birth?" Qin Xin calmed down and said, "It's hard to say. Some people are faster, some people are slower. Some people will be in pain for a whole day." Feeling the air become cold, she immediately closed her mouth. Hiss! Feng Jiu clenched his teeth and hissed. Xianyuan Mose was scared and quickly turned around. "What's wrong? What's wrong? Is it painful again?" "It's nothing." Feng Jiu held his stomach with one hand and gasped for breath. Lung Shuang and Bai Qingsheng helped him up. At this time, Qin Xian stepped forward and said to Bai Qingsheng, "Qingsheng, go to the kitchen and bring the breakfast I ordered. Master hasn't eaten this morning and needs to eat something." "All right," Bai Qingsheng replied. She allowed her to step forward and then left the room. Unexpectedly, as soon as she stepped out, she saw Hui Lang hurriedly pulling Fan Lin over. "How is Madam? How is she? Has she given birth?" Hui Lang asked anxiously. As soon as Fan Lin heard this, a few black lines appeared on his forehead. He was speechless as he glanced at him. He wanted to say something, but when he saw the anxious and expectant look on Fan Lin's face, he sighed in his heart and thought to himself, "I won't argue with people who don't know anything." Bai Qingsheng glanced at Hui Lang and said, "Do you think it's so easy to give birth? She gave birth in such a short time. Why don't you give birth to one?" As he spoke, he ignored Hui Lang's astonished expression and said to Fan Lin, "I'll go to the kitchen to bring some food for the master. You go in and take a look." Fan Lin nodded, then shook off Hui Lang's hand that had been grabbing him. He rubbed his wrist, and when he heard Luo Yu and the others rushing over, he said to Hui Lang, "Tell them to wait outside the courtyard." "What are they doing here? It doesn't matter whether you can help or not." Okay. Go in and take a look." Hui Lang pushed him in. In the room, Feng Jiu was supported by Lung Shuang and Qin Xi. They were about to walk around the room. Xianyuan Mose was sitting in a wheelchair and watching them closely. Seeing her deathly pale face, Xianyuan Mose's heart clenched. When he saw Fan Lin enter, he asked, "Fan Lin, is there anything that can ease her pain?" As soon as Fan Lin opened his mouth, he was interrupted by Feng Jiu. "This is a necessary procedure for a woman to give birth. How can giving birth be painless?" Feng Jiu panted as she spoke. She gently stroked her belly and said, "This stomach hasn't gone down yet. It'll probably take a whole day." Hearing this, Xianyuan Mose's gaze was fixed on her belly. He seemed to be very dissatisfied with the two children in her belly tormenting Feng Jiu. After Fan Lin came in to take a look, he said, "Master, take advantage of the time when your stomach doesn't hurt. Eat what you should eat. Even if you can't eat, you have to eat some. Giving birth requires strength. I'll go get the midwife to come over and wait in the courtyard." Chapter 3861. Xianyuan Mose had never experienced this kind of thing before and didn't know much about women giving birth. At this time, when he heard Fan Lin say that he had to eat, even if he couldn't eat, Xianyuan Mose's heart couldn't help but tighten. Because of nervousness, his face became pale and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. His breathing suddenly became rapid. Feng Jiu was stroking her belly and guessed that the child would be born at night when she heard the rough breathing in her ear. She was slightly startled and looked back. She couldn't help being stunned. "Mose? What's wrong with you?" She was anxious and quickly walked forward. "Master, slow down, slow down." Qin Xian and Lung Shuang were startled and quickly supported her, fearing that she would fall down if she walked too fast. Xianyuan Mose only felt that his heart was beating very fast, as if it had lost its rhythm. His breathing also became difficult. He held his chest with one hand and took a deep breath while calming his overly nervous mood. Feng Jiu had already come to his side and put one hand on his pulse to check. With this feeling, her face couldn't help but be stunned, followed by a laugh. "Ha ha 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 ha! Ouch!" Her laughter made her stomach hurt again. She couldn't help but cry out and quickly sat down on the bed. "It hurts again? Don't you have any pain relievers to eat?" As soon as Xianyuan Mose saw her clutching her stomach and turning pale from the pain, his heart clenched. His nervousness and worry caused cold sweat to form on his forehead and his face to turn pale. Seeing this, Feng Jiu felt pain and found it funny. She endured it and patted his hand, comforting him with a smile and a painful expression. Don't worry, I'm fine. Seeing that his face was still pale and the cold sweat on his forehead was still falling down, Fengjiu couldn't help but hold back her smile. She endured the pain in her stomach and asked, "Mose, what's wrong? Is there something wrong?" As she spoke, she wanted to check his pulse again. Just now, when she checked his pulse, she only found out that he was too nervous. Why didn't he look better now? Instead, his face was getting paler. Xinyuan Mose sat in the wheelchair and his body trembled slightly. His face was pale, as if he was enduring something. Seeing Fengjiu reach out to check his pulse, he reached out to hold her hand and said in a strange voice, I think my stomach is also in pain, ah? Fengjiu's eyes widened in astonishment. She looked at his pale face and the cold sweat on his forehead, which was even worse than her current situation. She couldn't help but blink and look at him with a dumbfounded expression. When Qin Xian saw this, she said, "Could she have eaten something bad? Do you want Fanlin to come in and take a look?" "She didn't eat this morning. She ate the same thing I ate last night. She didn't eat anything bad." Fengjiu took a breath and said, because of the pain in her stomach and seeing Xinyuan Mose like this, she wanted to laugh, but she couldn't because of the pain in her stomach. The two expressions alternated, making her look extremely strange. "What's wrong with the Yama Lord?" Qin Xian asked in confusion. Fengjiu hissed, then looked at the pale-faced Xinyuan Mose and grinned. "He's too nervous, so much so that he's suffering from psychological pain." Chapter 3862. Fengjiu rubbed his forehead and leaned against the headboard, saying, "How should I put it? It means that I'm in pain and he's in pain too." Qin Xian and Lung Shuang were dumbfounded when they heard this. How could it be like this? Perhaps it was because he saw that Fengjiu was no longer in pain. Xinyuan Mose's expression eased a little, but his heart was still beating faster. His palms were a little cold, and his hand that was holding Fengjiu's hand was also sweating. Fengjiu held his hand and comforted him softly. "Mose, don't worry, I'll be fine. You're in this situation because you're too nervous, so don't stay with me. Go outside, or find something else to do and distract yourself. You'll feel better." "No, I'll stay here with you," Xinyuan Mose said, unwilling to leave. His woman was suffering such pain because of him. How could he leave her side at this time and let her bear such pain alone? "I'm fine like this. If you're in pain, I'll be in pain with you." He took a deep breath and said this simple sentence with unconcealable affection. "Master, the food is here." At this time, Qin Sheng came in with the food and placed it on the table. When she raised her head to look at them, she saw that the two masters' faces were pale and couldn't help but be slightly surprised. Her master's complexion was not good because she was about to give birth. It was normal for her to be in pain at this time, but why was Yama Lord's face so pale? "Lung Shuang, Qin Sheng, you two can leave. Qin Xian can stay here and take care of her." Fengjiu ordered the two of them to leave first. "Yes." The two of them responded and left the room. Qin Xian scooped 2 bowls of soup for the two of them and said, "Drink some soup to warm your stomach first, then eat some rice." Outside, Luo Yu, Du Fan, and the others were waiting outside the courtyard. Seeing Fan Lin sitting under a tree, they went up and asked Fan Lin, "Don't you want to go in and take a look?" Fan Lin raised his head and glanced at Luo Yu, saying, "I can't help much. Master has Yin Zhu by his side, and Qin Xin is also inside. The midwife is already waiting in the courtyard, waiting for orders. All we can do is wait, and don't make trouble for Master." When a woman gave birth to a child, what could men do to help? What's more, there were midwives and Qin Xian to help with childbirth. It was not up to a man like him to do it. When they saw Bai Qin Sheng and Lung Shuang walking out, the two of them were whispering to each other as they walked. They quickly went up to them and asked, "How was it? What do you think? How is Master?" "Master and the others are eating." Bai Qin Sheng replied, "Don't you need to take care of him inside? Only Qin Xian is inside. Will she be able to handle it?" Luo Yu asked again. "If she's too busy, Qin Xian will ask us to go in and help." Lung Shuang said and walked to the side and sat down. "Sister, is Master's condition okay?" Lung Hua asked gently, his eyes filled with worry. Don't worry. Master's fetus is in the right position, and everything has been prepared. Nothing will happen. Lung Shuang's voice softened a little, his eyes looking into the courtyard. Why do I feel like I heard you ask what happened to Master? What happened to him? Is he not feeling well? Huilang went up and asked, because it was only a distance away from the courtyard for cultivators like them. Even if they didn't listen carefully, they could still faintly hear some of the voices inside. Chapter 3863. The Yama Lord is too nervous, so it's a little painful. Lung Shuang glanced at them as he spoke. Seeing that they were all in a daze, he felt that it was normal. When she heard her master talk about the Yama Lord situation, she was also stunned. After all, she had never heard of such a thing happening before. Or perhaps it had happened before, but she had never seen it before. After a long while, they regained their senses and looked at Fan Lin at the same time. They asked, "Is there such a situation?" Under their gazes, Fan Lin involuntarily clenched his hand into a fist and coughed softly. Regardless of whether there's such a thing or not, if the Yama Lord is really like this, then such a situation is indeed happening. He looked at everyone and said, "Master probably won't give birth so soon. You'd better do what you need to do." These people were all standing guard here. From time to time, they would pull him aside and ask him a few questions. He already did not know how to answer them. Master is giving birth to the little master. How can I be in the mood to do anything else? I'll stay here and wait for the little master to be born. Luo Yu said, and found a place to sit down. He crossed his legs and leaned against the tree behind him. Guemo looked at them and said, I've been quite free recently. There's nothing else to do. I'll stay here and wait too. Me too. Me too. Seeing that none of them intended to leave and wanted to stay here until the little master was born, Fan Lin shook his head and said, All right, all of you sit here. I'll go to the kitchen to take a look and have them prepare some food for the master and the others. I'll go with you, Bai Qingsheng said. All right, let's go. He nodded and left with Bai Qingsheng, leaving them here to wait. At night, shrill cries of pain sounded in the small house in the middle of the lake. Everyone in the residence felt their hearts tighten as they looked nervously at the tightly shut room in the main courtyard. Outside the door, in the courtyard, Xin Yuan Mo sat in a wheelchair. When he heard the shrill cries of pain coming from the room, his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. There were several times when he wanted to rush in to be by her side, but he restrained himself. The maidservants brought in hot water in and out. The smell of blood filled the air. Basin after basin of blood was brought out from the room. His lips trembled and his face turned pale. Ah, harder, madam, harder, ah. The Fengjiu's shrill cries and the midwife's voice rang out in everyone's ears. Du Fan and the others were anxiously pacing back and forth outside the courtyard. Hearing their master's mournful cries, they were also restless and extremely worried. Boom! Suddenly, a loud rumble came from the sky. The pitch-black clouds surged and gathered above the small building in the center of the lake. Thunderous rumbles came from the clouds, startling everyone in Spirit Immortal City and causing them to look over in shock. What's going on? Look, why are the clouds in the sky like that? Look! On the street, the people strolling in the night market raised their heads because of the rumbling sound. Therefore, they saw the rolling clouds above the small house in the middle of the lake and didn't leave for a long time. Moreover, there were sounds of thunder coming from the clouds. Boom! Chapter 3864. Is it the small building at the center of the lake? A family head and a few elders looked from afar and noticed that the clouds were surging towards the small building at the center of the lake. What's going on at the small building at the center of the lake? Why would it cause such a phenomenon? I knew those people were extraordinary, but I didn't know they were so extraordinary. Such a phenomenon can't be caused by ordinary people. An old man stroked his beard and said, he looked at the surging clouds in the distance and was really curious. What was going on there? Let's go and take a look. A middle-aged man said and looked at the others in the family. Even if we go there, we won't be able to get close to the small building at the center of the lake. Have you forgotten that the people inside are all extraordinary? Now that such a phenomenon has appeared, I'm afraid we'll be suspected of having ill intentions if we get close." Hearing this, the middle-aged man said, "Then let's not get close to the small building at the center of the lake. We'll just watch from nearby. We won't alarm the people inside. Look, many people are heading in that direction." Another person pointed at the figures flashing in the night ahead. The direction those people were heading in was precisely where the small house at the center of the lake was located. "In that case, let's go and take a look. But remember, don't get close to the small building at the center of the lake. Otherwise, they'll treat you as an enemy and kill you," the old man said and rushed forward. The few people behind him quickly followed in the direction of the small building at the center of the lake. When they arrived near the small building at the center of the lake, there were already many cultivators gathered there. The cultivators who could withstand such a powerful pressure in the middle of the night could almost be said to be experts in the city. However, even though they were experienced and knowledgeable, they had never seen such a scene. An old man pondered and said to the people around him, "Look at the sky. The clouds are surging like the waves of the sea. It's very shocking. The air pressure in the air has also become a little low. The aura of the entire world seems to be changing. What's the reason for this?" Another old man stroked his beard and also pondered. He said, "It doesn't seem to be a breakthrough or something like alchemy. What's going on in the small building at the center of the lake? How could it cause such a huge commotion?" They released their divine senses and listened carefully, wanting to hear the sounds coming from the small house at the center of the lake. However, when they released their divine senses, they found that there was a barrier protecting them. Not only were their divine senses unable to probe into the small house at the center of the lake, they couldn't even hear the sounds coming from inside. Not only did they set up a defensive barrier, they also set up a soundproof barrier. A middle-aged man said as he looked at the small building at the center of the lake. He had no idea what was going on. Not far from the small house in the middle of the lake, the leader of the number 1 mercenary group, Genie Feng, was standing guard with his men. Others might not know, but he knew that Madame Xinyuan was about to give birth. It was just giving birth to a child. Why would there be such a big commotion? Boom! Another thunderous roar came from the night sky. Suddenly, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. Everyone in Spirit Immortal City felt the ground shake. It was as if the entire world was shaking, causing everyone in the city to cry out in alarm. Why is it moving? Chapter 38:65. Beautiful and light heavenly music came from the clouds. Everyone was stunned. They looked up and were stunned. The night sky above the small house at the center of the lake was emitting a beautiful 7-colored light. The 7-colored light was dazzling in the clouds, and it flowed like a colored glaze. It was accompanied by heavenly music, and it shone from high above. It was as mysterious and beautiful as a fairyland. It was faintly visible that there seemed to be magpies flapping their wings and flying high in the colorful light. The light scattered below, like stars falling from the night sky, sprinkling in the small house in the center of the lake. A vision in the sky, a vision in the sky. This is an auspicious omen. It's an auspicious omen. The colorful light in the sky, the heavenly music, and the magpies are celebrating together. This is not ordinary, not ordinary. Compared with the shocked people outside, Xinyuan Mose, who was waiting outside the door in the main courtyard of the small house in the center of the lake, finally felt relieved when he heard the baby crying from inside. She gave birth. She gave birth. Master gave birth. It's a boy and a girl. Both mother and child are safe. Qin Xin ran out with sweat all over her head and said excitedly to everyone. When the people waiting outside the courtyard heard this, they all breathed a sigh of relief and grinned. Xinyuan Mose had already entered the room. At this moment, sitting in the wheelchair, he wished he could stand up and walk quickly to Fengjiu's side. He pushed the wheelchair into the room, ignoring the smell of blood in the room. He came to the bedside and looked at the pale and weak Fengjiu. When he saw her haggard appearance after giving birth, his heart ached, and he held her hand tightly with both hands. Adieu. We won't give birth in the future. We won't give birth in the future. He couldn't say anything and just called her again and again. God knows how painful it was for him to stay outside all day and listen to her pain all day. At that moment, he only thought that he would never have children again. He would never let her suffer such pain again. Feng Jiu was covered in sweat, and there was a strong smell of blood on her body. When she heard Xin Yuan Mo's words, a smile bloomed on her face. "Zay, have you seen her child? Was she good-looking? Who do you resemble more?" Her voice was a little weak. Even though she had already taken a pill, she still felt tired and powerless. It was as if her entire body was falling apart, and she didn't feel like her body was hers anymore. "I haven't seen it yet," he said. "Rest first, don't talk too much." The midwife wrapped up the 2 children who had been wiped clean and brought them to the bedside. She placed them beside Feng Jiu and then quietly retreated. Xin Yuan Mose looked at the 2 little things that were wrapped up from head to toe. For a moment, his heart softened. He looked at the 2 children and saw that they were very small. At this moment, they were sleeping with their eyes closed. Their skin was dark red and wrinkled. He couldn't see anything but felt that they were very ugly. He thought in his heart that he and a Jew were both born very well. How could the children they gave birth to be so wrinkled and dark red? Feng Jiu looked at the 2 children lying beside her, and a strong sense of satisfaction and happiness welled up in her heart. These were her and Moses' children. Seeing the 2 children safely born, all the pain she had suffered before was worth it. Chapter 38:66. Xin Yuan Mose glanced at the 2 children and said, "It took you so long to come out. As soon as you came out, you learned to be obedient. You know not to cry and make trouble." Hearing this, Feng Jiu couldn't help but smile and closed her eyes tiredly. Seeing this, Xin Yuan Mose hurriedly said, "A Jew, you rest first. I'll stay here with you." "Okay." No one knew whether Feng Jiu heard it or not. She just responded softly and fell asleep. When Qin Xian saw this, she stepped forward and said, "Yama Lord, the smell of blood in the room is too strong. Why don't you go outside and wait for a while? I'll disperse the smell inside. Then I'll help Master wipe her body and change her clothes before you come in." As Qin Xian spoke, she bent down and picked up the 2 children. Seeing this, Xin Yuan Mose asked, "Where are you going to take the 2 children?" Qin Xian paused and said, "I'll take the 2 little masters to the small room first." As soon as she finished speaking, she asked with a smile, "Yama Lord, why don't you go and accompany the 2 little masters? Come back to Master later?" Hearing this, Xin Yuan Mose paused for a moment. Seeing that Feng Jiu had fallen asleep, he asked, "How is a Jew's situation?" "Yama Lord, don't worry. Master is fine. It's just that giving birth consumed a lot of physical strength. She is a little weak now. Let her have a good sleep. When she wakes up, she will gradually recover. However, she has to go through confinement for the next month. You have to take good care of her and don't let her get sick. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome in the future." Xin Yuan Mose nodded and said, "You know what to do. Pay more attention and take good care of her. I'll come over later." "Yes." Qin Xian responded and carried the 2 children to the small room. Xin Yuan Mose followed her to the small room first. This small house was remodeled from the neighboring house so that Feng Jiu could stay in the house after she gave birth. The small house was connected to the main house so that it was convenient to take care of her. Du Fan and the others who were waiting outside could not wait any longer. After asking around and finding out that both mother and child were safe, they looked forward to seeing the 2 newborn babies. "Can we go in and take a look?" "Yes." "Can we go in and take a look?" "Hey, I want to see the little master. Let me go in first." Hui Lang said to Bai Qingcheng and Lung Shuang, who were guarding the door, as he squeezed his way forward. Bai Qingcheng and Lung Shuang also wanted to go in and see the little master, but the little master was in the side room of the main room. If they wanted to go in, they had to go through the door of the main room. The situation inside was not settled yet, so they could not go in now. "Let's wait a little longer," Lung Shuang said, standing still. "Why don't you carry him out for me to take a look?" Hui Lang was the most impatient person. The little master that he had been waiting for so long was finally born. He could not wait to see them immediately. Lung Shuang glanced at him and did not say anything. Lung Hua saw this and smiled gently. He said to Hui Lang, "Then wait a little longer." But later, Keep your voice down so that you don't scare the little master." I know, Hui Lang replied. Not long after, Qin Xian smiled and gestured for them to go in. They walked towards a small room and saw the Yama Lord sitting by the bed looking at the two children on the bed. They rushed forward. They're so ugly." Hui Lang went forward to take a look and instinctively shouted, "Why are they so small? They're black and red and wrinkled. Why aren't they white and chubby?" Hui Lang stared at the two wrinkled children in astonishment. Chapter 38:67. So ugly? Du Fan and the others all looked at him at the same time, their eyes shining with an unknown light. He actually dared to say that the two little masters were ugly? Did he forget to bring his brain with him when he went out? Why are you all looking at me? Hui Lang looked at them, confused, seeing them all staring at him, especially his master, who also glanced at him coldly. He felt his hair stand on end. "It's nothing." Du Fan smiled and patted him on the shoulder with an unfathomable smile. "The two little masters look exactly the same. Aren't they fraternal twins? How can they be exactly the same?" Luo Yu looked at them curiously and saw that the two little meatballs looked like they were made from the same mold. It was impossible to tell which was the boy and which was the girl. "Yama Lord, which one is the older brother? Which one is the younger sister?" Wei Feng asked curiously. "The one outside is the older brother, and the one inside is the younger sister," Xin Yuan Mo said, looking at the two children with a gentle gaze. "Why did you wrap up their hands and bodies? Won't it be uncomfortable to sleep like this? This way, they won't scratch themselves," Fan Lin said as he looked at the two children. By the side, Fan Lin said as he looked at the two tiny babies. He smiled and said, "Newborn children haven't grown up yet. When they grow up, the blackish-red color of their skin will gradually fade, and their appearance will also gradually change." In the room, they were still happily discussing the children. At this time, when the rainbow light and heavenly music in the night sky faded, voices of congratulations came from the sky. "Congratulations to Xianyuan Monarch for having a son. Congratulations to Ghost Doctor for having a son. Congratulations to Azure Dragon Monarch for having a son. Congratulations to Phoenix Master for having a son. Congratulations to Xianyuan Monarch and Ghost Doctor for having a son. Congratulations to Azure Dragon Monarch and Phoenix Master for having a son." Voices of congratulations came from the clouds. The rainbow light and heavenly music that had faded gradually played again because of the voices from the clouds, and the light became even more dazzling. Hearing the voices of congratulations and the way they addressed them, the entire Spirit Immortal City and even the High Firmament Celestial Sect were shocked. Monarch? Xianyuan Monarch and Ghost Doctor? Azure Dragon Monarch? Phoenix Master? Although they had never heard of the Xianyuan Sovereign or the Ghost Doctor, nor did they know of the Azure Dragon Sovereign or the Phoenix Master. Anyone who could be called a sovereign must be the ruler of heaven and earth, the Lord of heaven and earth. When the cultivators thought of this, they all sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at the small building in the center of the lake in disbelief. The person living inside was actually the monarch of the world. Which world's monarch was he? How could the sovereigns of the various realms appear outside the world and send messages of congratulations? While everyone was still in shock, an even more shocking scene occurred. "We're here to congratulate the Azure Dragon Sovereign and the Ghost Doctor on giving birth to Lin. We're here to bless and cleanse the spirit of the newborn. However, we're separated by the heavens and the earth, so we can't congratulate you in person. Please forgive us, Azure Dragon Sovereign and the Ghost Doctor." That deep and distant voice seemed to come from ancient times as it reverberated in the sky and entered everyone's ears. In the main courtyard of the small house in the center of the lake, when the crowd surrounding the two children heard the voice coming from outside, they were all startled and looked at Xianyuan Mo's at the same time. Chapter 38:68. Hearing the commotion outside, Xianyuan Mo's gestured for Lung Hua, who was standing next to him, to carry the two children into his arms. Then he brought the two children to the courtyard outside in a wheelchair. "Everyone has traveled thousands of miles to come and congratulate me. This sovereign thanks you all." A deep voice that contained a powerful aura and spirit energy spread out, clearly transmitting into the clouds. When it landed in the ears of the sovereigns in outer space, it shook the hearts of everyone in Spirit Immortal City. In the next moment, the golden light that gathered the blessings of the sovereigns sprinkled down from the clouds with a gentle aura, accurately landing on the two children in Xianyuan Moses' arms in the small building at the center of the lake. The blessings from the immortal sovereigns would naturally extend their good fortune. In the future, these blessings would bring them endless benefits. Therefore, Xianyuan Mos naturally would not reject their blessings and spirit cleansing. The so-called blessing and spirit cleansing referred to the blessing of awakening the hidden spirit energy in the children. With the sovereigns cleansing the spirits of the two children, not to mention their innate talent, their future cultivation would be 1,000 miles. Everyone in the city stared blankly at this scene, their hearts filled with shock. Blessing and spirit cleansing. The blessing and spirit cleansing from the sovereigns of heaven and earth was something that had never been heard of in millions of years. Now, they were actually witnessing such a grand occasion. The two newborn children were blessed with such good fortune. They were truly dragons among dragons and phoenixes. Even among millions of people, there was no one like them. It was truly enviable. When the people of the high firmament celestial sect saw the scene in the sky and heard the words, they were all shocked, speechless. Sovereigns! Sovereigns of heaven and earth. Sovereigns of heaven and earth had never appeared in their world. They did not expect that sovereigns would appear in their world, and they did not know about it. Duan Yunhe looked at the scene in the sky and sighed in his heart. He knew that these people had extraordinary origins, but he did not expect them to be unreachable figures like the sovereigns of heaven and earth. In the courtyard of the small building at the center of the lake, Du Fan and the others looked at the golden light that fell on the two children with smiles and joy in their eyes. How wonderful! The two young masters were blessed and cleansed by the various monarchs. That was truly a blessing. Xianyuan Mos looked at the two children in his arms. The two children, who were originally sleeping, moved their little heads comfortably, closed their eyes, and fell asleep. They even grinned from ear to ear. Seeing the two children like this, his heart softened. The way he looked at the two children was so gentle that he didn't look like a ruthless monarch. Instead, he looked like an ordinary father who loved and spoiled his children. When the golden light dissipated, he looked up at the seven-colored light and said in a low voice, "On behalf of my two children, I thank you all. Azure Dragon Sovereign, you're exaggerating." In the clouds, several voices could be heard. They laughed and said, "If that's the case, we will take our leave." As soon as they finished speaking, the seven-colored light in the night sky gradually dissipated. The churning clouds also gradually parted, and the night sky returned to its usual appearance. Only the stars twinkled in the pitch-black night. Xianyuan Mos looked at the two children in his arms and said to Qin Xin and Bai Qingsheng, "Carry the children inside. Don't catch a cold." "Yes." The two answered and walked forward to take the children and send them back to their rooms. Chapter 3869. "Yes." Fan Lin responded and turned to leave. Next, the mistress was going to eat the food that could be eaten during the confinement period. Fortunately, they had already ordered someone to brew wine, and they would first have someone use the wine to stew a spirit chicken to nourish the mistress's body. That night, because Fengjiu gave birth to a pair of twins, everyone in the Fu was excited and happy. Even though it was late at night, no one felt sleepy. The two children were sent back to their rooms to rest, and the mistress was also resting. They did not dare to disturb her, so they all went to the front courtyard to drink and celebrate. In the main courtyard, Xianyuan Mos sat by the bed and accompanied Fengjiu. He did not go to rest, but sat in the wheelchair and watched her sleep on the bed. She was exhausted. Her face was pale, and she looked exhausted. Fortunately, both mother and child were safe. The next morning, Fengjiu was awakened by the sound of a baby crying. When she woke up, she saw Xianyuan Mos sitting by the bed and watching over her. The baby was crying in the small room outside. "You're awake? Are you hungry? I'll have someone prepare some food for you," Xianyuan Mos said. Just as he was about to call someone in, he heard her words. Why aren't you sleeping? What's wrong with the baby? Why are you crying? Feng Jiu asked. She wanted to get up, but this movement tugged at the wound on her lower body. She could not help but hiss and frown slightly. Don't move. Just lie down. Xin Yuan Mose quickly pressed her down and told her to lie down and not move. He said, the baby is fine. Perhaps he's crying because he's hungry. Qin Xin and the others are taking care of him. Hearing this, Feng Jiu's heart relaxed. She said, let Qin Xin and the others bring the baby over. I'll feed him. But your body right now, Xin Yuan Mose was a little worried. Before the child was born, Feng Jiu insisted on feeding the child herself after giving birth, so they didn't hire a wet nurse. They just raised 2 dairy sheep in the back of the mountain. After the child was born, he cried a few times and then fell asleep obediently. He didn't wake up and cry until just now. However, he was a little worried about her health. She was so weak. Could she feed 2 children? Would her body not be able to take it? Feng Jiu smiled. My body is recovering. I'm not as weak as you think. Let them bring the child over. Seeing this, Xin Yuan Mose had no choice but to let Qin Xin and Bai Qingsheng carry the child over. Master, Yama Lord. The 2 of them came forward with the child in their arms and bowed to them. Wah, wah. The baby's cries were loud and clear. Quickly bring him over and let me see, Feng Jiu said. She supported herself on the bed with both hands and tried to sit up. Seeing this, Xin Yuan Mose quickly helped her sit up and said, be careful. He considerately took a pillow and stuffed it behind her waist to make her more comfortable. Feng Jiu took the 2 children and held them in her arms. Looking at the 2 crying children, she could not help but coax them with heartache. Be good. Don't cry. Mother is here. Qin Xin and Bai Qingsheng left, leaving Xin Yuan Mose alone in the room. Lung Shuang was guarding outside the door. When he saw the 2 of them come out, he glanced at them. Master is awake. I'll go to the kitchen and bring some food over. Qin Xin said with a smile and walked out. I'll go and help, Bai Qingsheng said and followed. Chapter 3870. Feng Jiu was startled. She hurriedly said to Xin Yuan Mose, you carry one. Xin Yuan Mose was a little flustered as he carried a crying child. He saw Feng Jiu undo her lapel and pull her clothes down slightly, revealing a patch of snow-white skin, as well as that plump. He was stunned. His burning gaze stared at her half-exposed, snow-white shoulders, as well as those plump breasts that made it hard for him to look away. But before he could look enough, he saw her carrying the child to her half-exposed chest. The little fellow was originally crying with his eyes closed, but when his little mouth sucked in the sweet mother's milk, his crying suddenly stopped. He sucked like a little puppy, even making sobbing sounds. Seeing this, he had the urge to go forward and pick up the little bastard and throw him away. Feng Jiu saw that the little fellow had stopped crying, then smiled. She looked up and saw Xin Yuan Mose staring at the child in her arms with a dark expression. She couldn't help but burst out laughing. Why are you staring like this? Xin Yuan Mose glanced at his son in Feng Jiu's arms and said, Jiu, why don't we find a wet nurse for the 2 children? As soon as he said this, Feng Jiu knew what he meant. Her beautiful eyes turned, and she glared at him. She said unhappily, you're the child's father. The child has just been born, and you already know how to be jealous of the child? Xin Yuan Mose's face was slightly uncomfortable when she said this. His ears were slightly red. He said, I'm worried that you won't be able to feed the 2 of them. How can I not know you? Feng Jiu glanced at him in disbelief. Seeing that the child in her arms had been eating for a while, she handed him to Xin Yuan Mose. At the same time, she took her daughter and switched sides to feed her. Xin Yuan Mose took the child and saw the little fellow smacking his lips. There was a trace of milk at the corner of his mouth. A pair of black eyes blinked and stared at him. Kid, I'm your father. As Xin Yuan Mose spoke, he stared at his son in his arms. But in the next moment, his face darkened. He held the child with both hands and lifted him up. He glanced at the large wet patch on his robe. Poochie. Ha 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 ha. When Feng Jiu saw this scene, she couldn't help but laugh. When she laughed, the little guy who had eaten his fill also giggled. Seeing the mother and son laughing so happily, Xian Yuan Mo's originally dark expression also eased. He sighed helplessly and said, "This brat really needs to be taught a lesson." Fengju laughed for a while and calmed down, but the corners of his mouth were still upturned. He said, "Quickly let Qin Xin and the others come in to take care of the children. You go take a bath first, then go to sleep. I don't need to stand guard here anymore." She was not clean yet, so she naturally couldn't let him sleep in the same bed with her. Moreover, he didn't rest while standing guard here. Seeing that he was a little tired, she naturally hoped that he could go to sleep first. "I'm not tired. I'll take a bath first and then come back." As Xian Yuan Mo spoke, he placed the child by the side of the bed, then pushed Lun Lin out. When they were outside, he said to Lung Shuang, who was outside the door, "Go in and take care of him." "Yes." Lung Shuang responded and then went inside. At this time, in front of the door of the small house in the middle of the lake, many family heads came in person with congratulatory gifts. After one of them knocked on the door of the small house in the middle of the lake, he waited nervously. Chapter 3871. Seeing Lung Hua, the crowd smiled and said, "We know that your esteemed mistress has just given birth to Lin, so we specially came here to congratulate you. We hope you'll accept it." Hearing this, Lung Hua smiled gently and said, "Thank you for your kindness. However, my mistress has instructed that we won't accept any gifts. I will convey your intentions to my mistress. These are just some things to nourish the body. They're not expensive gifts. Since we brought them here, we don't intend to take them back. We hope you'll accept them." One of the middle-aged men said. He didn't hand the things over to Lung Hua. Instead, he placed them in front of the door, cupped his hands in salute, and turned to leave. It was as if he was afraid that if he was too slow, Lung Hua would have to take the things back. When the others saw this, they also put down the things and hurriedly left. Lung Hua was slightly surprised. Looking at the mountain-like pile of gifts, he couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. Forget it. Since they've already brought the things here, he'll just take them in. Thus, after the crowd left, he flicked his sleeve and put all the things into his space. Then, he closed the door and walked inside. "Lung Hua, who's outside?" Luo Yu asked, tossing a red fruit in his hand. When he arrived in front of Lung Hua, he handed the fruit to him. "I'm not eating. You can have it." Lung Hua said with a warm smile, "Some of the family heads in the city sent gifts to congratulate you on giving birth to a little master. There's so many of them. I'm just about to open them and see what's inside." "Oh, I see. Then I'll go with you. Let's see what they brought." Luo Yu took a bite of the fruit and motioned for him to go to the front yard. The two of them went to the front hall and opened the gifts to check. Seeing that most of them were nourishing herbs for nourishing the body, they tidied up the things and went to the backyard. What a fragrant wine. Luo Yu smelled the wine as soon as he entered the yard. He took a few deep breaths and hurriedly asked, "There's also the fragrance of spirit chicken in the wine. What's so delicious about it?" "It's wine chicken soup for the master." Qin Xin came out with the things and smiled. "Why are you here? Wine chicken soup? Is there anything else? Give me half a bowl to try." Luo Yu grinned and said greedily, "Yes, you can eat in the kitchen if you want." Qin Xin chuckled. "This wine chicken soup is naturally very delicious. It's specially made for women in confinement. I also made Crucian carp soup. Do you want to have a bowl too?" "Crucian carp soup? Is it also good for the body?" Luo Yu asked curiously. Qin Xin pursed her lips into a smile and said, "There's a saying in medical books, women don't have enough breast milk. Drinking Crucian carp soup can help." Cough, cough. Luo Yu choked on his saliva, and his face turned red. He quickly waved his hand. No, I don't need it. I don't want to drink the chicken soup." When Lung Hua heard their conversation, the smile on his face deepened. He looked at Qin Xin and said, "Just now, the people in the city sent some nourishing things. I was just about to give them to you and pick some for Master to eat." "Oh, what are they?" "Now Master is eating nutritious and nourishing things. Some of the herbs can't be used," Qin Xin said, and followed them to the stone table in the yard with the plate in her hand. Chapter 3872. He was here just now, but Master asked him to rest in the back room. Qin Xin said. Hearing this, Luo Yu asked again, "Where are the two little masters?" They should be asleep in Master's room. Seeing this, Luo Yu asked again, "Will I disturb Master's rest if I go in now?" Qin Xian smiled. "If you want to see Master, it's better to wait a few days. Master needs to rest more now and recuperate well." "Okay then," Luo Yu said and did not go forward. Instead, he turned back and sat down at the table. Qin Xian put away the things and said, "Then I'll go to the kitchen first. Are my sister and the others waiting on Master in his room?" Leng Hua asked. "Yes, they're all helping to take care of the little masters." Qin Xian smiled and walked out. Since there was nothing to do, Luo Yu thought of something. He looked at Leng Hua and grinned. "Leng Hua, since there is nothing to do recently, why don't we arrange a celebration tonight? After all, it's such a joyous occasion for Master to give birth to a little master. We can't just drink a few glasses of wine like we did last night, right?" Hearing this, Leng Hua nodded. "Yes, that's a good idea. I'll tell Master or Yama Lord about it later. We don't have many friends here, so we can invite them to join in the fun." "You mean Duan Yunhe and Genie Feng?" Luo Yu asked. "Yes, other than them, we don't have any friends, right?" Hearing this, Luo Yu touched his chin and thought for a while. "Okay, then I'll go and prepare first. Since we want to invite them, we have to do it in advance. I'll go and arrange it now. You can tell Master and Yama Lord about it later. They should agree." "Okay," Leng Hua responded. After watching him leave, he walked towards the main house and knocked on the door. Master. Feng Jiu, who was watching the two sleeping children in the room, heard Leng Hua's voice outside. He gestured to the Leng Shuang beside the bed. "Let him in." "Yes," Leng Shuang replied softly, so as not to disturb the sleeping young master. After Leng Shuang went out, Bai Qingsheng went forward to put down the bed curtains. After all, her mistress was only wearing an inner robe and her black hair was loose. She could not let them see her mistress in this state. Leng Shuang came to the outer room. After opening the door, she looked at her brother and said softly, "The little master is sleeping. Keep your voice down. Don't startle them." "Okay." Leng Hua responded and followed her in. After entering, Leng Hua did not raise his head. Instead, he bowed slightly and said, "Master, the various families in the city sent some nourishing gifts to congratulate Master on giving birth to Lin Er. I didn't want to accept their gifts, but they left after putting them down. So I put the gifts away and gave them to Qin Xian to take care of. I asked her to pick something for Master to eat to nourish Master's body." Hearing this, Feng Jiu replied, "All right, I'll take it then. It's nothing." Leng Hua said, "There's one more thing." "What is it?" Feng Jiu asked lazily. "We want to hold a banquet tonight to celebrate the birth of the little master. We want to invite Duan Yunhe and Genie Feng. You can arrange these things. There's no need to ask. Go, let's celebrate and make it lively." Feng Jiu said with a smile. He would let them arrange it themselves. Chapter 3873. Luo Yu and the rest arranged everything, and the residence was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. Originally, Luo Yu and the rest had chosen to celebrate today, but when they talked to the others, they said that it would be better to celebrate together on the third day of the Lunar New Year. However, after thinking about it, they felt that tomorrow was the third day of the Lunar New Year, and they could celebrate together. As such, there was this lively banquet today. "Leader," someone sent an invitation over. The mercenary handed an exquisite invitation to Genie Feng and looked at it curiously. "Leader, who did they send the invitation to?" Genie Feng took a look at the exquisite invitation and was slightly surprised. He reached out to erase the seal and took out the invitation. After taking a look, he couldn't help but be startled. It's an invitation from the small house in the middle of the lake. "Ah, an invitation from the small villa in the middle of the lake?" The mercenary couldn't help but move forward. "Leader, why did they send you an invitation?" Genie Feng closed the invitation and glanced at him. "Go do what you need to do." As he spoke, he strode out. He didn't expect them to send him an invitation to celebrate. However, since the other party sent him an invitation, he had to prepare something as a congratulatory gift. But what should he give? On the other side, Duan Yunhe also received the invitation. When he saw the invitation, he was also surprised. He didn't expect them to invite him to celebrate. Therefore, He began to prepare. After choosing a gift, he left the sect and went to the small building in the middle of the lake. In the evening, Xianyuan Mose came to the master bedroom and saw Feng Jiu playing with the two children. The two children were lying next to her and giggling. Hearing the mother and children's laughter, his gaze softened. "Mose, you're here? Come and see. These two children are so beautiful when they laugh." Feng Jiu called out to him as she played with the children. Xianyuan Mose went forward and saw that the cloth wrapped around the two children had been changed to two different colors, one white and one pink. Clearly, it was to distinguish them. However, even if it wasn't distinguished, the children could still distinguish them. This was because there was a small red dot between the girl's eyebrows. It was just that it was hard to see because of her dark red skin. "Why aren't you resting?" He came to the bedside and looked at her. With one hand, he carried his daughter who was sleeping inside. He lowered his head and gently touched her little lips with his finger. He saw her break into a smile. Seeing this, Xianyuan Mose also smiled and praised. "My daughter's eyes are like yours. They are so beautiful. She will definitely be a beauty when she grows up." Upon hearing this, Feng Jiu pursed his lips and smiled. "Of course our children won't be bad. However, the children are already born. Have you thought of a name for them? What should we name it?" Xianyuan Mose looked up at her and said, "I've already decided. Let's call our son Mu Chun and our daughter Mu Yu." Hearing these two names, Feng Jiu was startled. "Mu Chun? Mu Yu?" She looked at him with a complicated gaze and asked, "Why do you want to name them like this?" Xianyuan Mose looked at her and said, "Although I haven't said or mentioned anything, I have always remembered that Mo Chun died for us. If it wasn't for him, how could we have such a happy life now?" Mu means to miss and admire, and Chun means him. I hope that in the future, the children will also know that there was such a person who died for us. Chapter 3874. Hearing this, Feng Jiu softly called out, "Mu Chun Mu Yu? Xianyuan Mu Chun, Xianyuan Mu Yu." She looked at him and revealed a gentle smile. "These names are really good." Xianyuan Mose held her hand with one hand and the child with the other. "Jiu, Mo Chun doesn't have any children. I want our children to acknowledge him as their adoptive father. What do you think?" Hearing this, Feng Jiu's heart trembled. She didn't think that he would make such an arrangement. For a moment, she was speechless. Mo Chun died for them. She had always felt guilty and owed him. If their children could acknowledge him as their adoptive father, that would be the best. Okay. Her eyes reddened as she nodded. Xianyuan Mose let go of her hand and touched her face instead. "You're in confinement, so don't be too emotional. Rest well and don't sit too often. Just lie down more often." As he spoke, he took the other child from her arms and said, "You should sleep. I'll take the children to the outer room." Feng Jiu responded. She watched as he called for Lung Shuang to come in and help carry the child away. Only then did she lie down and close her eyes. Although cultivators like them didn't have to go through confinement like ordinary women, it was better to take care of their bodies as much as possible. This way, they wouldn't be left with any lingering illnesses in the future. Perhaps it was because the matter on her mind had been settled, but she felt very relaxed. Not long after, she fell into a deep slumber. As the night fell, laughter filled the small house in the middle of the lake. Delicious wine and food were placed on the table. Du Fan and the others sat on the side and rested. Luo Yu grinned and said, "Today's wine is a good wine that I've kept for a long time. Later, you should all drink a few more cups. I'm only willing to let you drink because it's a joyous occasion like the little master's birth." Ha 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 ha. "All right, we'll definitely drink a lot later. But before we get drunk, you can't lie down." Du Fan laughed and patted his shoulder. "With my alcohol tolerance, how could I lie down? Just wait and see. Tonight, even if all of you are dead drunk, I will still be sitting sober," Luo Yu said with a smile. He glanced outside and said, "Why isn't Chi Kong here yet? Does he have so many things to do in the City Lord Mansion?" Gu Mo glanced at the sky and said, "The sky is dark now. It's still early." At this moment, Lung Hua, who was walking towards the front yard, heard a knock on the door and walked towards it. The servant had already invited the person in. When he saw that it was Genie Feng, he smiled and went up to him. Commander Jean, please come in. Young Master Lung. Jean Yifeng cupped his fists and bowed. As he followed him inside, he said, I didn't expect that everyone would send me an invitation. This Jean is really flattered. Lung Hua smiled warmly and said, Commander Jean is a man of honor and has a relationship with us. Now that the City Lord Mansion is celebrating, we naturally hope to share in the joy. As the two spoke, they arrived at the front yard. Looking at the people in the yard, Jean Yifeng bowed to them and then handed something to Lung Hua. This is a small gift to congratulate Madame Xian Yuan on giving birth to Lin. Commander Jean is too kind. I thank Commander Jean on behalf of my master. Lung Hua accepted the gift and stored it in his space.